Hello and welcome to another episode of Oh So Curious Times DCU Daily. We are back, as always, with lots of news from the world of Hollywood. We're going to talk about DC, we're going to get into a little bit of Marvel, and we also have a movie review for you today. We're going to be reviewing Speak No Evil, the new James McAvoy film, which looks about as unhinged as James McAvoy has ever been. And John and Angelina both went to see it, so they're going to talk about that. We also have to look ahead to Transformers 1, which is coming out only in a few days from now. We have to look back at the Emmys from the weekend and all the records that were broken, whether it is Shogun or The Bear. We're going to talk about Hacks, like all the different shows that's, took the trophies home, the big Emmys. I've got one of those Emmys, but that's the story for another day. There's also, of course, the news of I just lost track after a humble brag. But basically, what I'm trying to say is there's also the whole Mickey 17 trailer. That's what you probably saw in the thumbnail. That's what you clicked in for. So we're gonna definitely review that. We're gonna do that right at the start of the show. So let's get the show started. All right. Welcome on in, everybody.
Hello.
How are we doing today? Angelina, how's your day been?
About as good as everybody else's, I guess. We're just running around being crazy, doing the things. And when I say being crazy, I just mean schedules are crazy lately. But we're good. We're here. We're happy to be talking about all the movies. So let's get her done.
Yeah. Nice. John, how's your day been? Any news from the world?
I had like a fucking 3-hour-long doctor's appointment today, but and I got heartburn from my dinner, but outside of that, there was nothing really of interest. So that's how my day went. I took a Xanax. I'm fine, but
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe some Prilosec OTC, like Larry the Cable Guy.
Consume Prilosec. Yeah, let's go.
Exactly.
Larry. Anyway.
No. I'm
trying to do Larry the Cable Guy. Trying to do an impression of somebody doing Larry the Cable Guy. It's a whole thing. Anyway, if you watch Game Grumps, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's continue on.
Let's continue on. So we start every show with the news. So we've got a lot to talk about today. So let's get started with the news, and then we'll take it from there. It doesn't seem to matter what I
do. I'm always the number 2.
Mr. I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding.
I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see Colin.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the needs now?
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's time for the news. News from the world of Hollywood.
Gotta love it.
The joke, yeah, I love that. It gets us going. We're in the mood now. It's a good primer.
Can't move on without
it. Speaking of wacky things like the news, what you just probably saw, Mickey 17. It's a movie that we have heard about for a while. It's been in development since Warner Brothers landed Bong Joon-ho in their stable. The director of Parasite, who had one hell of a night for himself at the Oscars a few years ago. He had one speech prepared, and then he's like, "Oh my God, am I winning like more than one Oscar?" And then all of a sudden, he you could tell he had a few drinks by the time.
King. He was like, "We're nominated, but we're not gonna get any of them. It's fine." gets all of them. I still remember watching Parasite, like, what the fuck?
Good stuff. I've seen Snowpiercer too. That was pretty good. But in terms of like American productions that he's made, very, very good.
What else did he make?
Well, Snowpiercer. He's also done Mother, not Jennifer Lawrence, the South Korean Mother, which is way better than Jennifer Lawrence movie. Anyway, he did that. He did Memories of Murder, also fantastic.
I haven't seen any of these.
He did The Host, which was okay. I find it a little bit overrated. A lot of other people like it. I thought it was fine, but Mother, Memories of Murder, and Parasite were all very excellent. And I can't wait for Mickey 17. I watched this trailer not expecting.
Okay,
crazy,
but
yeah.
But guys, this trailer dropped literally a couple of hours before we started the show, right? And this is a big deal because this is a director who's obviously worked on a much smaller scale. You're coming over and working in Hollywood. Of course, Parasite got a lot of acclaim from Hollywood and the movie making world in general, but you've got a director here who's coming from a background where he hasn't really worked in mainstream Hollywood. Now he's got a studio picture on his hands. Watching the trailer, you've got Robert Pattinson, one of the hottest stars. He's, of course, Batman at Warner Brothers, so at DC Studios. What did you guys think about the trailer? Because it does... here's the thing. I saw a bunch of articles talking about it and doing the review, and then People.com, one of the magazines, they had the whole live, die, repeat, Robert Pattinson dies multiple times. Like, even in this Deadline article, Robert Pattinson dies many deaths in Bong Joon-ho's Warner Brothers sci-fi pick. It is based on a book, which was Mickey 7, I believe, John, right? So the title is a little bit different. So I'm going to start with you, because John, you brought this trailer to our attention when I was making the rundown for today's show. What was your reaction to this? Were you expecting it to be as wild and crazy as it is?
No.
Did it, or... Yeah, just tell me what you thought about the trailer.
I expected it to be like a sci-fi like drama. I didn't really know. I just knew that the premise was kind of similar to the Duncan Jones movie Moon. Came out in 2009 with Sam Rockwell. And I love that movie. That was a great movie. It's a very underrated gem. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. So I kind of expected that vibe. And then the trailer starts. It's like kind of serious. And then, like, his hand gets chopped off, and then they all of a sudden start playing Dean Martin's Kick in the Head, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what we're going for. All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I'm in with it, and then it just got crazier from there, and I'm like, let's fucking go, man. I just wish it wasn't dumped in January, but, like, honestly, this looks fucking great, man. This looks really fucking great.
Yeah, honestly, what got me first is you hear Robert Pattinson's voiceover, and he's doing his weird. He's done this accent once before, but I forget what movie he did it in, and it's like very 1920s American, and you don't expect his voice to be as high as it is, and you're like, what the frack is that? And then you see his hand get chopped off, and from there it just gets so out of pocket so quickly. My favorite is actually when he attacks himself when there's doubles. That was funny. That was funny. Yeah, ultimately, I've never read the books. I've never even heard of this. Thoroughly excited. The trailer got me. If you guys haven't seen the trailer yet, you have to watch it. It's crazy. I was like, huh. But to be said, so it's going to premiere January 31st. John had some real big feelings about that release date.
Yeah.
But I think it has to be strategic because it probably just isn't fully ready to be dropped, or they don't think it's going to compete well in the holiday season, which makes sense to me, right? Like, this it's not really a family movie. It's going to be kind of like a, comedy, thriller, dramedy, something like that. It definitely seems a little out of place for the holidays. I think a January 31st release date is going to be really strategic, especially when we have all these crazy rollouts between Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve. Like, all those 2.5 months are crazy, crazy, crazy movies that are just like, if they are not blockbuster hits, they are not going to make it and be able to compete at the level it needs. So I feel like it's Warner Brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is Warner Brothers, yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's a strategic move to just be like, oh, you know what? We'll let the sort of movie theater slate clear itself out and release it January 31st. I think that's a great release date. It's not really going to have anything to compete with.
I mean, it's also like, John, like, think about this, right? This is coming out in January, which I might be wrong about this, but doesn't that put it in like that awards cycle, or does that mean now it's in the next cycle? Because what you're looking at is a period of time between, November, like the holiday season, when you get a lot of these awards contenders, movies coming out. And I feel like they might be positioning it for that.
I think it might be a little bit too late for that, because I don't think it ends on like December 31st. I think it like ends like mid-January. So I don't think they're gonna. First of all, I don't think it's like an award contender. It's not. It's like it's way too weird.
No, but I'm saying is Bong Joon-ho, like the dude. You know what I mean?
I feel like they're gonna want it to contend.
Maybe for like effects or something like that, but I feel like, I mean, it's comedic, so, and the Academy hates comedies, so I have a strong feeling that
technically wasn't Parasite a comedy?
I mean, it's
I think it was marked as a comedy. Like that's what I think.
I guess so. It's a very the thing is that's a very
like a dark comedy. Yeah.
Bleak black comedy, but like this seems a little bit more goofy, a little bit more like silly, and they might not be into that. So I mean, but who knows? Like the Academy's fucking weird sometimes. Like sometimes they do like Oscar bait crap, like Green Book fucking winning, but then they also have the movie where Sally Hawkins fucked a fish man. So like it's.
What?
I thought that was a good movie.
That's a great movie.
I
love that movie, and I'm just glad
saying.
that Del Toro got something. But I'm just saying the Academy is just weird sometimes,
I mean,
sometimes they give it to movies that deserve it, like Parasite. Sometimes it goes to Green Book. So it's.
Well, by the way, I did
Green Book, and I think I liked that movie. Yeah. It was a good movie.
I tried watching it. I'm like, this is just Driving Miss Daisy, but worse.
It was a good movie. Did I get sick? I watched it on my birthday, which is actually so funny. That's the main reason I remember this movie as well as I did. I was watching it with my boyfriend at the time, and I started getting like massive chills during the movie, and I was like, "Oh, I don't feel good." I ended up getting like strep throat.
Guys, let me ask you this question: the movie.
True that.
By the way, I looked up the whole the Oscar cycle dates. So this won't be eligible for the next Oscars because the cycle and like the eligibility period ends on December 31st. So this would need to be for the following year. So
nobody's gonna remember it.
I could have sworn it was like mid-January. Interesting.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I don't know. You guys can correct me if you find anything to the contrary. But I was just kind of going through the Oscars website, and it looks like the Academy Awards the end date for that eligibility period is December 31st, 2024 for the current cycle. So like Dune 2 would be the big sci-fi submission, and that's what Warner Brothers is gonna be submitting for all the 4-year considerations. This movie, though, I mean, again, you have one of the best up and coming directors in the world, and like Ray J365 said, don't underestimate the GOAT. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna call him the GOAT just yet. He hasn't really done enough. But the one thing I will say about this movie, he's done. Look, I'm saying though, it's
like Hollywood. Yeah,
but like, dude,
stuff. Yeah,
the GOAT is Steven Spielberg. The GOAT, like I'll put that in conversation. James Cameron, Christopher Nolan, like those are the guys, in my opinion, who have the resume to boot. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean he's a fantastic director.
I noticed all of those are white men. Dan, are you being racist right now?
I'm not being racist. I'm just telling you, like, who's got the resume.
No, I know. I understand. It's just.
But let me.
It's just like he's made so many great movies that not a lot of people are aware of, and I feel like okay, maybe he doesn't have GOAT quality just yet, but I think he's like. I feel like he's. Close.
I mean, he's on the way,
especially if this
but he
is successful.
15
I think
years.
he's close.
Like, I don't think you can look at him and be like, yeah, he's totally cemented as like the greatest of all time. Like that, no, I mean, the Parasite was incredible, but like the rest of what he's doing is mainly like not mainstream in Hollywood, which would be considered like
Parasite wasn't Hollywood technically, so
Yeah, but it did really well over here.
it did really well. And then, but yeah, he's done Snowpiercer. I think he might have done like one more Hollywood movie. I don't know about
I
that.
never even saw that movie. I don't know what that is.
Well,
It's
guys, just getting back to the trailer itself, because
Yeah,
I mean, we can debate the resume of the director all day long. As far as this movie goes, of course, when you look at how the trailer plays out, again, going off just the trailer alone, to me, this kind of like reminds me of like, you know, the Fifth Element. You know, the Bruce Willis Fifth Element movie from the 90s.
Yeah, I know.
Mila Jovovich. I'm like, it reminds me of the Fifth Element, and here's what I mean by that. I mean, like, the feel of the movie, the way it kind of plays out. It's got a little bit of the Wes Anderson, you know, melancholy, and like just the way these characters are over the top, and yet like it doesn't look like a Wes Anderson movie, which feels like you're watching a stage play on a movie screen. It has the sci-fi, the look, and you know, but at the same time, it's when you see movies like this, a lot of the times the subject matter is much more serious. Where here, because even in Live Die Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, whatever you want to call that movie from Tom Cruise, which I thought was a really good, and it is one of the most underrated sci-fi movies of the past 2 decades. That movie was still a relatively, you know, serious film. Like it had some like moments of levity, but overall the story was like, you know, we're playing it straight. This movie, on the other hand, with a similar concept, with the scale on which the story is being told, I will say the CGI doesn't look the best in some scenes, but again, it's a trailer. But at the same time, it's just it doesn't feel like one of those, like, nowadays, like, you know, you get movies like Passengers, which is a terrible film, but like, you know, it's a serious movie with a spaceship in space, or like you're watching a show like Foundation.
I thought it was more like romance with essence of comedy.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though.
I
like,
never
it's
saw
like,
it, so I don't know.
It's not this. Mickey 17 to me feels like quintessential Bong Joon-ho, but like the Fifth Element kind of the
You know
way
what it kind of reminds me. It does. I will say it gives off Fifth Element vibes, but it kind of gives off. This is going to be weird. No one's going to agree with me on this, but I'm just talking about the vibe of like the original Star Wars in a way, like because that was a movie at the time. Like nobody really did sci-fi movies like that. You had like stuff like 2001.
It's giving more Fifth Element than it is giving.
No, I know Fifth Element, but like what I mean, like. Because a lot of people don't consider Star Wars a sci-fi movie; they consider it a fantasy movie because it doesn't.
Really?
It doesn't.
That's so weird.
It doesn't tie
it's not really hard
into
sci-fi.
normal sci-fi elements like 2001, Silent Running, Star Trek. Those are like hard sci-fi, and that was more like a fantastical sci-fi. That's what this feels like. It feels like more fantastical sci-fi, and I kind of like that because you have stuff like Dune, which is hard sci-fi, and then you have something like this, which is very fantastic, which I really like. Now, obviously, it doesn't have that vibe of Star Wars. I just meant like in terms of like what it initially kind of was at the time, where it's like more fantastical. This feels more fantastical, and I'm digging the vibe. That's what all I'm saying is I'm really digging this one.
Yeah.
And I love Robert,
like,
and has the range. Can't wait for that because he's excellent.
Yeah, I mean, and quite frankly, this can't be any more different than the roles he's played in like the recent big films he's done, such as, you know, of course he did. What was the name of the Christopher Nolan movie? Tenet, and of course the Batman. This movie feels
High
like
Life
it's a
was
different.
More.
Yeah,
High Life was more like what I assumed this would be, where it's like more like serious drama sci-fi. That was kind of like a split thing. I think the critics really liked it, but then audiences didn't like it. It was very like artsy. I think Mia Goth was in it. I heard it was very weird. I wanted to see it, but I never got it. High Life. It was like sci-fi, like took place in space kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really interested to see Robert Pattinson in this. I obviously was a Twilight fan, obviously. And obviously he's done so much more since then. But I feel like he's really stepped up in the last like 5-6 years of his, maybe 10 of his career, and like really sort of driven himself to be and do more in every single movie that he's done. I am excited to see this because it seems like he's finally not taking himself so seriously. Even when he was playing like Edward Cullen in Twilight, he like took himself way too seriously. I was like, what?
I think because I think he wanted to like make sure like
that he's not typecast in that
That-
forever.
Because
well that and the fact
so
like
ridiculous.
I think he was not a real like he was not like a real actor at that point. Like he hadn't really done a lot, and that was like his first like leading role. I'm gonna get bigger roles because of this. He literally said like Twilight. I literally only did that franchise so I could further my career, and like good for him. But so I think that's why he's like, okay, I'm not a like serious actor yet, so let me like play this way too seriously. Or maybe it was just piss poor direction. I don't know, but like that's I don't know. I don't blame that too far. But like I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And
yeah,
I do
ultimately, like I'm excited because it feels like he's actually having fun in this trailer with this role. He's like having a good time.
Yeah.
He was in Tenet, wasn't he? And he took himself a little seriously in that.
I think there was a bit of comedy there, but it was still it was for the most part, yes, very, very serious.
Yeah. So this just looks like super fun. I don't know. My mom's favorite movie is Fifth Element. So I grew up watching that movie. I really hesitate to make that comparison because that is such a high comparison to live up to. To me, this is giving more, I don't know. We'll
Moon.
wait. Yeah, we'll wait to see.
It's Moon. Yeah.
It's
like with the multiple
feels,
people, Sci-Fi Edge. Yeah.
Fifth Element.
I mean, this feels
great. It was. I mean, it's obviously like a cult classic.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it feels like the kind of movie that, as an actor, you had a fun time on set. Like this is an actor's kind of movie where you're enjoying your time making the film because you could see these people. I mean, again, they're actors, so they're acting, but I just get the feeling from watching the trailer that they had fun making this movie. Like it's not one of those films that's, like Dune 2, for example, which you could tell was like I had a very specific vision. I feel like Bong Joon-ho he's got a directing style that lends itself well to this IP. And if this movie does well, despite the fact that they're putting it out in January, but that's not to say it can't make money in January. And like Angelina, you mentioned, there won't be a lot of competition for it. So we have seen like the two highest grossing movies of all time, two of the three highest grossing movies of all time, and the two Avatar films. They both came out in late December and made most of their money in January and February. The same could be said for the Aquaman movie that made $1 billion for Warner Brothers. So they know that if you get a hit on your hands and there's people, who you've got the families out there who are going to have some time off. And even if they're back to school, it's a time of the year where you don't have a lot of competition. I'm not saying this is the kind of movie you take your whole family out to see. But what I am saying is if the movie hits well and has good word of mouth with the audiences, then it will have the runway to make the money that it needs to make to justify sequels because it is a series of books, right? So Warner Brothers has the rights. If they make this a hit, if they feel like this is gonna spawn a franchise, David Zaslav would love to have a franchise that comes out of this. And of course, you've got Robert Pattinson at that point tied into not one, but two franchises over at Warner Brothers.
This is going to be a franchise-based movie. I feel like this is going to be
I
a
don't think
one-off.
so either.
Yeah.
I don't think Bong Joon-ho would like to be.
I don't know if Robert Pattinson would do it either. Honestly.
I mean, he already has a franchise. He's playing Batman, so I don't think he would want another one under his belt. So
is he doing another one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been talking about
Batman
this.
Part 2.
There's going to be Batman Part 2 and Batman Part 3. And then God knows whatever else.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
That's fine.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You're good.
Well, guys, we do have to keep the ball rolling here. We have two other news items to get into. Of course, this past weekend, so we were doing the show on a Tuesday night. On Sunday, the Emmys were, the 2024 Emmys took place, and they were a hoot. Because if you watched it, there were, speeches like John Oliver, where he just thanked all the cats and dogs in the world, rather than, his own family. You had, of course, you had the wonderful, speeches from the cast of Shogun for all the awards that they won. The Bear was breaking records. Shogun was breaking records. Disney had a great time because of like those Hulu shows and all the FX shows. You also had Hacks winning. There was a surprise win because Jean Smart not only won for Best Actress in a Comedy Series, but in the Best Comedy Series category, where you thought The Bear was going to win, Hacks won. So, it was just a full night of, surprises and, just a celebration of great movies. I also like the presentation of the show because, but they did, especially with, they had this like LED screen that would come down, and then when it would go up, they had like these, like a stage set up behind it with like, people and like a set, almost like a stage play, and they would like put up actors in front of it, and they would introduce a category. And that setup would look different. They either had like several different vert things, but it just looked like it wasn't a LED board with some graphics on it. There was some physicality to it, which really, I think was, to me, like, that's the kind of effort I want to see be put into these award shows. It gives it literally another dimension. Like the West Wing cast came out and announced, like, I think the best series in drama, which Shogun won for. So, and it was great to see like all the cast of the West Wing out there, and of course the hosts were fantastic. Schitt's Creek casting reunion, but especially toward the end of the show when they brought out the sister too. So overall, what I would just ask, what stood out to you the most? Because to me personally, Shogun breaking the record for the most Emmys won by any show ever in a single year, between the Creative Arts Emmy and the Primetime Emmys, which happened this past weekend. The Creative Arts Emmys happened the weekend before because they split the Emmys into two shows. There's so many awards to give out. You get 2 weekends of awards. So between the two shows, Shogun won 18. The Bear also ended up, breaking its own record. But to me, Shogun was a standout because I really loved that show. Angelina, what was your favorite part of the Emmys?
I need to watch it. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I need to watch that, and then I just end up not watching it. I'm like, work. I'll find a way to watch it because, like, God, because it's like I love the main. I forget his name. The main guy. The guy
Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yes, I can never remember his name, but he is so fucking excellent. That dude, I would say he's an underrated GOAT because, like, everything I have seen that man in, he gives 400 fucking percent in like everything. Like, that dude is just so fucking excellent. Sorry, I cut you off, Angelina. I apologize, but anyway, I just had to gush.
It's fine. I apologize. I didn't watch the Emmys, y'all. I was working my ass off all weekend. I did not. I was kind of we're all a little confused as to why The Bear is classified as a comedy. Between The Bear,
people swear
Only Murders in the Building, and Shogun, Disney won over 60 plus awards, so they took home the most awards out of any of the other platforms, which was kind of cool. So I feel like Disney is definitely making a little bit of a comeback, especially since they purchased Hulu. But
of course, they also have Fox now through the Fox, well, not Fox, but FX through the Fox merger. So
I'm still confused how all of this was legal. Like, Disney was just allowed to buy like everything. Is Disney now like the biggest conglomerate like on the planet?
Well, in the media space, they are. That doesn't mean they have the most amount of money. I mean, you of course still are in a world where Apple and Amazon are making entertainment. They have way more money at their disposal than somebody
I feel
like
Amazon
Disney.
has slowed way down. Like Prime Video, I haven't. What huge shows have come on Prime?
Well, of course, you had Borderlands. That was not Borderlands. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fallout.
No, not Borderlands.
Fallout.
What am I thinking of? Fallout.
Yeah.
Fallout was nominated.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Fallout
I'm confusing my game franchises.
You're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and of course, you have Reacher.
I didn't watch the Emmys, but I think the most surprising to me was that The Bear. Everyone said that the third season was like garbage, and it still topped the amount of awards it won. Which
I wouldn't say it was garbage. It was just like.
Didn't you call it garbage? I feel like you said it was terrible.
You know I'm hyperbolic. Calm down.
I was like, I'm pretty sure it was you that said it was garbage.
I mean, okay, it wasn't like garbage. It was just like it ranged into garbage, but it was just so boring. Like, I just didn't care. And like, one of the few like storylines I wanted them to like focus on were not focused on at all. And then the entire episode regarding like her pregnancy, I'm like, why do I care about this? And yeah, it just like if it just felt like a major step down from the previous two seasons. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't like if the show wasn't ending next season, I would not watch next season. But I'm like, okay, if it's only one more season, I can like rough it out
They've
like another
announced that
10
they're only doing 4
episodes.
seasons total.
Yeah, they confirmed that it's ending with season 4. I have a theory on how it's going to end, but I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't watched it yet, so I won't. But I do have a theory, or at least a hope, with how the series is going to end. But we'll see about that.
Well, Ray J, I would just say that Disney Plus and what they're doing with the Marvel and Star Wars shows, there's different departments. There's like multiple studios under the Disney umbrella. And of course, FX knows what they're doing. Clearly, they know what they're doing. And, a lot of the series over on Hulu, of course, they're doing a great job. And when you see this picture here, you're seeing, Netflix represented, HBO, Hulu, and FX. I'm forgetting who is on that far right picture. But yeah, I mean, it's you've got representation from across the board. Of course, Abbott Elementary, another Disney show, was also nominated in multiple categories. So the whole Emmys this year, it was just again an affirmation of the great state of television that we still are in today, despite the fact that we might be past like the peak prestige TV bubble with streaming. We're still getting great series. And it's ultimately, there were a lot of winners at this year's Emmys where they weren't the biggest budget shows. They weren't like these big high-powered franchises. They weren't sequels, prequels, or spin-offs. They were original stories. I mean, Shogun was an adapted story, but like Baby Reindeer, based on a true story. I mean, it's something that you wouldn't have seen coming. And
there's like litigation around it right now.
Oh yeah, there's the person the real life stalker that they have in the show,
she's suing.
Fictionalized in the show, she's suing,
right?
which whatever. Like it's but it's insane. Like if you watch the show and you see the story of what happened to this man, it's kind of like wild. But yeah, and also just Jean Smart, she aging so gracefully and continuing to do her best work even now. I just sort of remember her from Legion. That's where I first saw her. Then I've seen her in a bunch of other stuff. But Hacks is just one of the best comedies on TV today. You can watch it on HBO. And of course, it's continues to win awards. Shogun, I can't wait for the next season. And Anasawai won Best Actress in a Drama. Of course, Hiroyuki Sanada won Best Actor in a Drama. It's just unfortunate that Anasawai's character is not gonna make it to the next. Spoiler alert, she's not gonna make it to the next season of the show. But Hiroyuki Sanada, one of the most underrated actors in all of Hollywood, finally getting the acclaim that he deserves. And by the way, to answer your question from earlier, Angelina, I will say that in a world where Disney might have the most IP power, Larry Ellison, who David Ellison is the Larry Ellison's son. Larry Ellison just became the second richest man in the world and just kind of hopped over Jeff Bezos. So he sits between Jeff Bezos at 3 and Elon Musk at 1. He now owns Paramount. So Paramount just became, they've got like a lot of, like once that merger with Skydance goes through, even though David Ellison is fronting it because he's like the CEO of Skydance Media, ultimately Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle, is the one who's really got the money that's backing that bit. So I think that Paramount has got a bright future ahead of it because they're gonna have a lot of money in the bank. Of course, you've also got Comcast out there who've got they've got money to throw around. So we're living in it. We're eating good as fans of television. Good television, whether you're in Peacock. For the first, I think they got on the list with some Emmys at this past weekend, which was, I believe, the first time they have been able to land some awards. So between Apple TV Plus, Netflix, HBO, Hulu, FX, even shows like Abbott Elementary on ABC, you've got so many options. The Bear on Hulu. So Murders in the Building, Only Murders in the Building. It's got a new season that's ongoing. So it's a good time for television. And I think we can all enjoy something that we like. With that said, we do have one more piece of news to talk about. Now, now we're going to move over from the television world to the world of the movies, back where we usually are hanging out. And guys, last week we said we were going to look into The Killer's Game and Speak No Evil, the two movies that were two new wide releases this weekend. And essentially, we saw Speak No Evil, but we pretty much skipped The Killer's Game, as did it seems like most people.
Everyone.
So, and as the title of this article says, the Killer's Game gets whacked. The Killer's Game gets whacked. And with that said, I just wanted to kind of run this by you guys because The Killer's Game really fell flat on his face. And so I want to get your opinion on what you think went wrong with this movie and why you think it just completely fell flat on its face, because it literally did not even make like $5 million. Like
It didn't make $5 billion.
it's just it's crazy. It's for Dave Bautista. It's the lowest wide opening of his career. Like I mean, of course, he's been in movies like Dune and the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise.
Yeah, I mean, those are such big ticket movies that it's kind of crazy.
I mean, but even his other movies that have been smaller movies have not like opened this low. Like it's just his
like
previous low was Total Artemis.
He's like a lead in this. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, you can see this in the article. It says that it's got a post-track moviegoer score of 63%, but if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, I believe it was sitting somewhere in the 20s and 30s. So clearly the critics are not a fan of this movie, and it looks like a lot of people just skipped it. I mean, in a week where you still have other movies there, but in terms of what's new, these were the two new movies. So, and Speak No Evil and The Killer's Game don't have a ton in common in terms of the genre. So it's not like Speak No Evil stole all of its audience. Like, John, what do you think caused this movie to like just completely fall flat on it? It didn't even make $5 million.
It had no fucking marketing. It was like I saw like a 5-second trailer before like my movie started when I went to go see. I don't even remember what it was. A couple weeks back, and maybe it was The Crow. And yeah, that was literally the only thing I saw for this movie. I didn't see any like Facebook advertisements or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. I didn't see anything. I just saw that one like 5-second trailer, and then like we were talking about it, and that's it. That's the only thing I know about this movie. So like obviously it was one of those things that they filmed it. They were like, oh, this could be good, and then they're like, then it's because it was Lionsgate. That's why, because Lionsgate did it. Lionsgate.
Dude, they've been having.
I didn't even hear about this. I literally didn't even hear about this movie until we were reviewing it on our own. I was like,
and then Lionsgate's also gonna have Megalopolis at the
but the thing about the Megalopolis is they're getting paid to distribute that movie, so they're already
that's not gonna make money for them. But
they are.
Yeah,
they're gonna
like Francis Ford Coppola had to pay them to distribute it for them, not the other way around. What's usually the case?
Yeah, isn't it so wild too? Like that is just the craziest thing that I still can't get over that every other country was like, oh, we can't wait, and then in America, like literally, he has to
because they're all fucking wimpy ass little. Well, even the don't know real cinema, so
but
they're like, oh,
but like even in other countries, it's not like they got big time distribution. They got distribution. Yeah. But it's not like there's big studios distributing them in other countries. But that's a different story. As far as The Killer's Game goes, John, this is one of the stuntmen from John Wick, J.J. Perry. With he's been trying to become more of a director, and we've seen a lot of stunt directors kind of transition to becoming movie directors. Of course, the first Deadpool movie, you've got the John Wick franchise. They're led by the directors who started out, in the stunt department. J.J. Perry, they're Lionsgate kind of putting their faith in him to be like, you can be the next one who kind of goes across the divide and takes on the role of a director. Unfortunately, this movie really didn't do well by him.
Nope.
And in a world where we talk about like Beetlejuice, for example, is a movie which had a much bigger budget. It had a budget of like $150 million, and it was meant to be like a half hour longer than it actually ended up being. But Warner Brothers were like, we're gonna throw it on Max, and Tim Burton was like, I don't need this to be in a movie theater. So then Warner Brothers were like, okay, tell you what, like if you are willing to knock off like 30-40 million off the price tag of this film, off the budget, then we can use that money to actually market it for a theatrical release. And then you need to maybe make it a little bit shorter as a result. And Tim Burton was like, deal. And as a result of that movie, which cost about $100 million, has now made like $400 million at the box office, is more than profitable. And quite frankly, I think that decision worked out. But then on the other end of that spectrum, you have a movie like Killer's Game, which to me feels like Hitman. That movie. It's not the same thing, but it feels like the Hitman, like with Glenn Powell and Edgar Arjona.
Yeah, it just feels
right
like
where
silly.
It feels like the kind of movie that you would want to drop on a streaming service straight away rather than throw it out in a movie theater, because it really, especially if we're not going to market the movie, like. We talked about this last week, and we were like having a hard time finding a lot of marketing for this movie. Not to mention the trailer didn't quite tell us everything that was going on. It kind of made it look like just another
But
cliche action film,
I
right?
do feel like that's really the balance that people are going to have to find over the next couple of years is like everything that used to be worth seeing, you had to see in the movie theater, right? Or it went straight to DVD, which meant it was like garbage, or it went to like Lifetime or Disney. Like it went to a TV channel, right? It was like a TV movie. So now they're having to dictate between that or streaming, and I feel like the budgets are so much higher for these movies. The cost of these movies cost so much more, and I feel like a lot of people are like struggling to sort of find the median of like, okay, does this go to theaters? Like I feel like they don't have the proper metrics to be able to figure that out lately. Like as of yet, post-COVID, in a sort of post-COVID world, like everything has changed so much. You have inflation. These movies, the budgets of these movies is in fucking insane lately for so many of these movies. And it's like, I don't know, there's been so many movies that have bombed in theaters. And I think it just has to do with the fact that there's not proper metrics yet set up in this new sort of territory of a post-COVID world, you know? I think it's it's like a difficult sort of balance that these people are trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still like I read a study not too long ago where it was talking about how there's still like a good 25% of the people out in the world who were regular movie theater goers back in the day who have not returned to the movie theater on a regular. They don't go to the movies like the way they used to before the pandemic. Even now, like, you know, multiple years since the pandemic really kind of died down.
Everything's more expensive now.
Well, it's also ridiculous. Like every time.
Well, Ray J in the chat said also going to the movies is mad expensive now. So which is true. Like I went to go see Speak No Evil on a matinee on it was yesterday, and one ticket and regular popcorn that was about like $16-17,
and that's
which
on
is
a
like
matinee.
That's for that is for a cheaper matinee, like in the middle of the day, and nobody's really going to that on a Monday because, well, people are going to work, people are going to, you know, they don't have, or they're like or they're in school, or you know, they're not really going to the movies. And it also doesn't help that like theaters are closing, dropping like flies. Like I remember a guy I was talking to, we were talking about movies, and he's like, yeah, I rarely go to the movies now because my closest movie theater is 2 hours away.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not like a thing where you could just hop in your car, 5 minutes away, just go to the movies. It's like, now it's like a whole, it's like taking like a road trip at this point. It's like, okay, we got to like set a day to go see a movie. We have to like have like a special jar for our budget for going to see a movie now, because you need like a separate budget and you need like separate time. Just go to the movies. And people are like, fuck that. I have like 10 million streaming services that cost fractions of the cost. And then, or they could just pirate shit, which is now getting more popular because there's so many other streaming services that even with the cheaper ones, they're not willing to pay for. So it's just like, it feels pointless now. It's like, yeah, I don't want to go see. I mean, I fully believe in the movie theater experience, so I still go.
But I know that there have been a lot of movies that we've watched and you're like, I'm not going to go spend that money to go see that at that theater. Like, I get that, right? I have AMC Pass. It's $24.95 a month. But every time I bring a friend, it's $24. If I'm lucky, it's $24. Sometimes it's $25, depending on what movie theater I go to in LA.
Exactly.
And it's like, and that obviously doesn't pay, like, that's not parking. Even with AMC Pass, like, popcorn is fucking $10. Like, it just is so wild. Whereas we used to be able to go to the movie theater, like a whole family, it was like $30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like $40.
Yeah, those times are long gone.
$40. Yeah, long gone, but it's also like the inflation right now is just like fucking absurd.
It's also like you gotta remember this movie in particular, Killer's Game, really didn't stand out as anything that we haven't seen before. you know, or certainly the marketing didn't do anything to, you know, pitch its case as something you haven't quite seen before. It looked like another one of those. We've got like Scott Adkins, we have got Batista in there, we've got Palm Clemente, Sofia Boutella, these people who do great action, and you know, of course, they have name power, but it's not really any. It's not. What is the concept?
It's not special more, and that also adds to the fact that like we're living in a world where there's no marquee value anymore. And I think Quentin Tarantino talked about this too, how there's no movie stars anymore. It's not like it's not like you fucking put on a giant marquee Elizabeth Taylor in Cleopatra type of shit. That like is like old school. The last time we had that was like in the 90s. Like ever since then, like it's like ever since the 21st century, we just haven't like it's like, oh, people will be like, oh, wow, James McAvoy's in Speaking No Evil. I like him. He was great as Professor X. I'm going to go see this movie. But it's not like James McAvoy in Speak No Evil. It's not like this big marquee. There's no movie. It's like we're in a post-movie star world.
I wouldn't say that like since the 90s. I would say probably early 2000s. Like I feel like that's started to die out.
I'll give you that.
Like I think Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, like Jennifer Aniston, I think they were kind of some of the last big movie stars, like
George Clooney,
like Nicole Kidman, you know what I mean? But Brad Pitt is probably on the younger end of them, right? Angelina Jolie is probably on the youngest end of them. But then really since then, it's like, who?
Yeah, no, it's not a movie star culture anymore because we're not going to see these movies for movie stars anymore. We're seeing them because we maybe like them as actors and other projects they were in.
Yeah,
we're not necessarily seeing them because they're a movie star, and that's just the truth now. So that's also kind of been deteriorating for the past few decades as well. And then on top of that, you got like big, massive budgets as well. Like, I mean, I don't want to blame like, you know, superhero movies like everybody else does. Like action movies at this point, fucking $150 million. Like with just like these huge, like, for instance, you said Beetlejuice was $100
I think it was like
right?
around $100 million.
Budget. Yeah. So like it was around $100 million for a Beetlejuice movie.
Crazy.
And like
wasn't the first one
the original was $15 million.
Yeah, there you go.
It's like that's how it is now. Like Beetlejuice, and that doesn't even cover the marketing. So you have $100 million, and the marketing was huge for this movie. Everywhere I saw it was Beetlejuice. So like, it was like I would tack on another $100 million. This thing would probably cost like 150, maybe 185 million with marketing. So you have that as well.
The marketing like around Beetlejuice that started months ago. I auditioned for a secret deodorant commercial that I just saw go live that was in relation to Beetlejuice. I auditioned for that in like June, July. Like the marketing around Beetlejuice was crazy.
Yeah,
it went into different sectors. Like it was
just a couple of days ago. I think, when I went to go. Actually, I think it was when I went. It was one of the few times, Speak No Evil, when I went to go early to a movie because it was at noon. So I'm like, let me actually go early, and I actually caught like the previews before the trailers, where it was just like commercials and stuff. And there was like a Beetlejuice CarMax commercial, and I'm like, really? We're
like it extended. Well, because I think they were really trying to tap into like the cult following that the initial movie.
I guess so, but it's just like it's just a weird thing. I guess
just all over the place. A secret deodorant had a Beetlejuice commercial. Like, just think about that. A deodorant company, like that's wild to me.
Yeah, I just it's just so weird. And then so that's like also like going back to what I was saying. It was like that goes into it as well, where it's like a movie that was in 1988 cost 15 million, and now like a movie that looks maybe slightly better is 100 million. So it's like you have that as well. You have like these ballooning budgets. And I was also reading reports. People were talking about because there was a bit of a story about Pixar animators that's been kind of going viral. I don't know how much truthful it is. That's why we didn't want to do it like for a news segment, because it was very like rumor mill. But one of the things was like Disney is now, if it makes less than, if it it's only a hit to them if it makes more than $600 million, no matter what the budget is.
Isn't that wild?
And I mean, Dan and I talk about this from time. I mainly like jab at it, like make jokes about it during DCU Daily, where it's like, oh, fucking the almost $900 million movie for Batman versus Superman was not a hit to Warner Brothers because it didn't make $1 billion. Yeah. So it's like, even though this movie made almost $900 million, not a hit because it didn't get an extra $100 million.
I mean, the numbers are just so insane, and so much of that budget goes into graphics, right? It's post-production.
Yeah, like
graphics.
VFX,
like the stunts, like the crazy action stunts, like all of that stuff,
and actor salaries.
Oh,
like
yeah.
If you especially get a big A-lister, like that's
I
also.
guess Johnny
like,
Depp has to be one of the last major superstars too, right? Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, but
yeah,
still.
But it's just like the whole. I think it's just like.
Yeah.
I mean, I no offense, but like it just like I feel like actors have just gotten greedier nowadays, and I'm not talking about like working actors like yourself, but I'm just talking about like the ultimate A-listers that are like, well, I have 4 yachts and 16 mansions. That's still not enough. So
I mean, but guys, it's like Jim Carrey was getting paid like 8 figures for doing like Liar Liar back in the 90s. So that's not the new thing necessarily. If anything, actors don't get paid as much as they used to at the top end. But what I will say though, I mean, the conversation ultimately around the idea with what happened to the Killers game, I think it came down to, like you guys said, terrible marketing. So like if the studio doesn't believe in the movie, why should we believe in the movie? The critics, really just panned the film. It sits at like well below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. And that ultimately, because there wasn't enough of a fan awareness, like it all kind of ties into a lot of people didn't know this movie existed, and the people that did, they were like, it kind of looks like another one of those like movies. I've seen
why? Because the only trailer I saw premiered before The Crow, which also fucking bombed, so that added insult to injury.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, it's a movie that's out in the movie theater. If you want to watch The Killers Game, I'm sure it's going to end up on a streaming service eventually. It is a Lionsgate film. Lionsgate is having some terrible luck recently.
Yes.
Hopefully, Megalopolis turns up a profit, or it's surprisingly good.
It's not good.
But anyway,
we're all like,
it's not
a $120 million indie movie. Like that's a passion project indie movie.
I mean, look, the first Iron Man movie was an indie movie technically because Marvel was not owned by Disney at the time, and they seem. But so it's possible. It's possible. But I'm just saying. We'll keep our eyes out. You guys let us know if you guys do happen to go watch the movie, and then of course, we can talk about it more. But until then, we have lots more to talk about on the show. Of course, we do have to talk about the movie of the week. That is Speak No Evil, because James McAvoy, he might be auditioning for, John, like you said, like The Shining. He might be like, let me get in that remake whenever that happens. So let's take a look at.
That's just my opinion.
Let's take a look at Speak No Evil. I mean, hey, but. A lot of people think it's a classic. So Speak No Evil, we're going to take a look at that. And then on the other side of this, we're going to review the movie because John and Angelina both saw it. And we have lots to talk about.
Ready?
I've been married a long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? I've been married a long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go?
Oh, Patty!
You flipped out and tried to leave without saying goodbye?
Wow. James McAvoy seems to be auditioning for a return for just, I don't know, whether there's another Split movie, maybe M. Night has a role for him, or maybe he just wants to take on Jack Nicholson's role for a new Shining reboot or some kind. But Speak No Evil. It's not See No Evil, it's Speak No Evil. See No Evil, because I got those confused a few days ago. But James McAvoy is back at playing as twisted a character he's ever done. And this is the movie of the week. And as it says down there, he scares up another killer movie. So, John, Angelina, you guys both went and saw the film.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this movie? I'll start with you, Angelina, because you just went and saw this yesterday. So, fresh in your mind, what was your initial reaction walking out of a movie theater having seen this? And what stood out to you the most? Was it James McAvoy's performance was it. I think that this had Mackenzie Davis in there, a few other
Yeah.
actors. The trailer looks creepy as heck. What did you think about the film?
This movie was crazy. Like, crazy. I can't even. I was like, my eyeballs were so wide leaving this movie theater. I was like, unhinged is the best way to describe this. James McAvoy is incredible. Obviously, we already knew that. I think his best performance to this point was still Split, because I've never seen someone play so many different characters so well. Like, it was crazy. But this was a close second. There was never really a dull moment in this movie. It was so well. So did you notice, John, at the end, that at the end, he makes sort of an inference to his current wife. Earlier in the movie, they were like, you guys have been together for 17 years. Well, how old would that have made you when you got married? And at the end, without saying it, he sort of hints at it, that he's going to like take the daughter and do the same thing to her. And she's only like 11 years old, 12 years old. Yeah, so 12. It fully completes like all cycles in this movie. It was so crazy. I mean, the little boy is brilliant, but at the end you literally see him snap, and that was like the craziest thing. I mean,
the kids were very good. Both of them, even the little girl was very good. Yeah, I don't know the actors' names, but they were both very good.
I just don't think I've been this shocked by a movie in a really long time. I wouldn't really consider it to be like a horror movie. It was definitely like a psychological thriller movie, more of a like, but I still thinking about it, I was like, holy shit. Like, my brain was just completely like flatlined. I was like, oh my God, it was unwell. But the movie, I'd give it like a 10 out of 10. It's probably one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. Like, especially a movie of this sort of in this category. Like, James McAvoy is incredible. The storyline, again, I feel like that's usually what misses in movies like this, in this sort of category, is you either have really poor writing and like the actors did what they could with it, or you have a really great writing and the actors were terrible. This across the board was like, really good.
Yeah. I mean, and then John, like, this is kind of in that horror genre, right? I don't know if you want to qualify this as horror specifically, because it's also like a thriller, but
it's more thriller than horror. Like the original film. So what I did, I was just gonna watch the original film because I was very curious about it, and because my friends were talking about it, and they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna see the original, and my friends was like, okay, I'm gonna see the original and the remake back to back. He's like, oh my God, the remake is so much better than the original. I'm like, okay, now I'm really curious. So I watched the original on Sunday. That movie's excellent. The original, it's a Dutch-Danish production. Very excellent, very dark, very bleak. Very different from this film. That felt like a horror movie. This, I would say, we definitely disagree. I did not care for this movie. I thought it was, for most of it, I felt it was like for the first 2/3, I felt it was a very boring, tenseless, atmosphereless version of the original. Like, the original film is that movie is like dripping in atmosphere. Like, that is a very atmospheric film.
Can you see my face right now? My jaw has dropped on the floor.
I felt that this movie was not scary at all. I felt it was very boring. I was like I was like squirming in my seat because I'm like, I really just want to play on my phone right now because I'm just so bored with watching this movie. And I was just not at all interested. I thought all the actors did fine. The kids were definitely the best part. And I will say it's definitely better paced than the original. The original is very slow. It's not for everybody. So unless you like really like foreign films, I would say probably don't watch the original and the fact it's very bleak. So it's not for everybody. I really like dark, bleak, like nihilist movies. So like I really, really like that. So that's the kind of stuff I like. I felt that this was just kind of like a very bland and generic, like Americanized version of the original. And I I felt the third act just went way too fucking ridiculous. I felt that this was James McAvoy's weakest performance I've seen from him. I've not seen every movie he's ever done, but I think this was definitely one of, if not his weakest performance. I felt he was, especially with the original actor who played Patrick in the original movie. I'm forgetting his name, and plus it's also a Dutch name. So, but I like, for instance, if I remember, like, I was saying this to my mom, like, if I saw the original film and then I heard about the remake, like it wasn't made yet, and then I heard James McAvoy was playing the role, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's perfect. But here I just felt like he was not convincing as like this master manipulator, especially in the last act. I felt he was funny. He was more funny, this character. Like he was like he was like, I'm gonna kill all you. I'm gonna kill all. It's like, it just came off as very like you saw like an 80s schlock fest of a movie, and you thought that's how psychopaths work. When it's just like, Javier Bardem didn't have to do that in No Country for Old Men. So like, what are you doing here, buddy? Like, I don't get it. But Phaedra Von Hewitt, it played Patrick in the original film. That dude, that performance was so fucking good. He played a sociopath perfectly. And I don't want to like I hate to keep referencing the original, because it's like, it's a little bit unfair, because more often than not, remakes don't hold a candle to the original. But even by itself, I felt that this was just a very poor movie. I felt it did have some interesting bits here and there. The acting was okay. It had a good pace. And I did have fun with the last act. It wasn't scary to me. It just was very ridiculous, and just like, and it was also very trope heavy and cliched heavy. Like, oh, it's the slash tire. Oh, they go back into the house instead of getting in the fucking car and leaving the fucking property.
Yeah,
oh,
that shit was so wild.
dead.
I was just like, I absolutely would have done something different. However, I do feel like the daughter having like a full fucking breakdown made me ask questions about like, why is she so connected to this stupid stuffed animal? But I've also seen parents that do that.
It is.
Like,
it was implied. I didn't even notice this until my friend told me about it. It's implied that she was autistic, like, because the way she was like scratching her arm and like had like various like tics.
Show she was in, and that show was so strange to me. There's something about her face that I find like
interesting.
Yeah, it gives me like Alison Brie, but not as like
Station 11.
Station 11, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that was weird. That show
and
was
I will say that there was a point in the like third act of the movie. I literally said this in the guy like a couple seats down from me was like laughing at what I was saying, because I was kept like pointing out all the stupid fucking cliches in the last act. Like, so okay, so I know you remember this, but I'm painting for a picture for the people who haven't seen it. So in the like last act, it's revealed that they're like a creepy couple that like steals like children and takes their money and blah blah blah, all this other shit. So earlier on in the movie, Mackenzie Davis like has a box cutter in her pocket, and she slashes James McAvoy's face. She grabs the gun from the wife. I don't know the actress's name. She was also pretty good.
Yeah.
And they go back into the house instead of leaving in the car. Why don't we just go into the running car? Are you crazy? It's like, it reminded me of that Geico commercial. And so they run back into the house hoping that the landline is thing, and then it's like all this other shit. And then Scoot McNairy, the husband, is like, why don't we just like try to make a run for it? Why don't we just try to leave? And then Mackenzie Davis is like, but they have guns. And I literally said outside, I was like, bitch, you have a fucking gun. What do you mean they have guns? You have a rifle in your hands with a bullet left. Use it. It's not terribly difficult. So it's like, it was just like a lot of like again, I watch a lot of horror movies, so I notice like all the like cliches and horror tropes that like irk me. So I was just like watching this last act, and I'm like, it just got like a little bit like too ridiculous, especially when like the original. Again, I'm sorry I keep bringing up the original, but like the original was just like, it didn't over explain so much. It was very subtle, a lot of nuance, very like succinct. And the couple in the original, like it was the Danish couple, like who Scoot McNairy and Mackenzie Davis are here. That was the Danish couple. It was Bjorn and Louise, and they're like more like flawed. So I'm gonna spoil a little bit of. I would say, please try to watch the original film.
Yeah.
It's very good. Like it's not for everybody, but I would say just try to attempt to watch it. It's very slow, but it's very good. So if you remember the scene in this movie, they have the argument where it's revealed that Louise like cheated on him and then whatever. But in the original film, it wasn't just like some argument. It was like, they actually start to have sex in the movie, and you literally hear like their daughter, Agnes, start like crying for them. And they like ignore her to have sex because they've been like they've been like a bit of a drought like between the two of them. So they're like, we just need this. We're stuck like this. We just need to do this. So it's showcased that like the couple is like more flawed and more like there's more like little like things that like.
So they had inferred that, right? So they had inferred that she was calling out when the.
Yeah, I didn't hear it though. I didn't hear it in the film because like they only said that later on.
Yeah, they say it later on, but you never actually hear it. So I feel like that was one of the things that was supposed to. They maybe switched that to make it seem like the what was her name? The redheaded character.
Kira.
I think they did it in order to make Kira seem more suspicious.
Yeah. So I
feel like that was the switch that they.
I will say that scene where they like manipulate them to stay was a little bit better here than in the original. Was like so awkward, but like in a good way. It was like a very like awkward way of handling things, and that's like a lot of like just like again, it was like very tense, and like the way that like certain things happen in the original, I just slightly preferred. Again, that just like comes down to preference, but like even then I just felt that this movie like I'm in the minority. If you like it, that's fine. Like I'm not like shitting on that. Just personally
really like it.
A lot of people do. I'm the outlier. Like I'm in the minority, and that's
You're
fine.
Always the outlier, John.
I'm not always the outlier. Not always.
You are a hater, my dude. And
I'm not.
Great.
I just felt it was an okay movie. Like I'd give it like a 5 out of 10, 5.5 out of 10. Like it had some good aspects, but I was just kind of bored with it. And the third act just
like
didn't
they
match.
Never gave the husband like a good arc. Like
they didn't. I hated that too.
He never really had a hero moment. And that was one thing that was brought up by my friend. He was like, damn, I was really rooting for him. Like I really thought he was gonna have his hero moment. And he didn't. The wife did everything, and the daughter. Like the daughter coming through at the end was crazy. Like the husband never has a hero moment, but also I think that that's an important conversation because I do feel like that's a version of men that is not always sort of put out there. Like these very like not feminine, but like emasculated men that like don't take charge.
A beta bitch, as many would say.
I feel like it's not
unquote.
Very often depicted. And so it was kind of cool to like see the woman, but also like at the end of it, you're like.
But it was like I didn't really like her that much. She fucking cheated on her husband, so she's kind of a bitch. But
I mean, yeah, but I could also see why she cheated on her husband when they're
all right. There's no
sex.
good
He doesn't have a job. He begged her like no, there's not a good reason. I would never do it, but it does sort of make you see how it got there, right?
Yeah, I get it. I still don't like it or agree with it, but I will say I fucking love this kid. I'm out of context, that's weird, but like this kid who played Ant was like Agnes was also very good. She was very good, but he mainly because he couldn't talk. Yeah. He couldn't talk. They had to like I don't know how they did that. Like I don't know if they like tape your tongue down or I don't know if there's like you're familiar with anything that sort of thing, but
I don't know.
The fact that like he like you had like the tongue cut out. He was good. Like I don't know if he's actually a Danish actor because that's what they implied. Like he couldn't. Not one, he had his fucking tongue cut out, but two, he was also like he couldn't speak English. Like remember how he handed her the note and he wrote in another, and she's like, I didn't get it. It was like gobbledygook. It was like clearly a different language. So so I liked that. So like and he could only go like that, and the body mannerisms and like what he did. This kid has a fucking future in. I don't know if like he plans to like do more movies, but this kid is really fucking good, and I hope that he, does more movies because that's very
He's really good.
Yeah.
I agree.
Dan Hoff, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Dan Hoff. Do more movies, kid. You're good, but like try not to like do drugs when you hit 18 or something. But yeah, that's it. Just I don't know. It's just I will
know
say
what Hollywood Place. I've never seen that.
I will say it's just like there was another thing I don't like. This is just a me preference, but something to kind of finish this up. It's just like I also don't like how like this is a remake of a movie that came out 2 years ago. It's like, guys, come on, is Hollywood really that bankrupt that you have to remake a movie? And on top of the fact, most of the original movie, like 90% of it, is in English. So it's like, why? What's the point, guys? Like, I know Hollywood's bankrupt of good ideas, but like, still, come on, like, really, you couldn't.
Well,
like wait a couple more years. I don't know. Just
we also had, of course, we had the Tom Hanks remake recently too, which wasn't the original was a few years older, but Hollywood
there should
does
be like
do
a
this
10 to 15 year minimum.
I get
like
what you're
remaking
saying.
Movies.
I get what you're saying, but
makes sense.
Look, regardless of whether you liked or hated the movie, James McAvoy has done a pretty good job because the movie is making a good.
I would say. I also don't want to say he was bad. He was like fine for most of it. I just think he went too crazy in the third act. I just feel like it became more funny than scary.
Yeah.
Like I love the man.
I definitely was so uncomfortable. I laughed a couple times for sure. Yeah.
Well, I just thought it was funny. Like, I just think he went like too much with the. Like, oh, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I got a Glock. I'm gonna kill you. Like that kind of thing. It just came off as a little bit. I think that's a little bit of poor direction there. I feel like James McAvoy, it should have been a little bit more subdued in terms of that. But
James,
even then,
just tone it down like 0.2. You know what we
a little
about?
bit. Like, you're at like a fucking 50.
Did
Let's
I
tone it
get
down
a
to like a 30.
12?
Like,
I need it at like a 10. Just like a little bit. Can you imagine that conversation from the director?
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, I think
guys,
but still, I would say go see it. Keep your theater alive. Go chill out $12 to go see this.
It's a movie that's sitting in the mid 80s, both with the critics and certified fresh, as well as with the audiences, with over 1,000 audience reviews that are verified. So people are liking it, whether you're a critic or whether you're just an audience member like one of us going to watch the movie. And it's also a movie that was only made for $15 million. That's before marketing, but it started off at the $11.5 million at the box office. So it's already working its way towards profitability. So it's a very small movie, but it's a movie that is obviously drawing audiences to the tune of basically 5 times of what The Killer's Game did. So it's doing good for itself. Let us know in the comments if you guys watched this movie, and if you did, then what you thought about it. And of course, if you didn't, then why did you decide to skip it? We'd love to hear from you. If you're in the live chat, thanks again for watching. We're going to continue on the show next. We have lots more to talk about still. We have DCU Daily coming up. We still also have to get into the Agatha All Along, the new Marvel show that is starting to air tomorrow. So we're going to dive into that as well. Of course, we did lose a legend of the industry last week in James Earl Jones. Somebody who had a career spanning 6 decades on stage, on the screen, in the voice booth. He's left an infinite legacy that we will probably marvel at for years and years to come. And he was one of those few actors who got the EGOT, the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony, which is an honor all by itself. But he left a mark on the industry that will never be forgotten. And we here at Also Curious, we like to, when possible, pay our tribute to, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, James Earl Jones. Let's do that right now. And then on the other side of this, we'll be back. John and I will be talking DCU Daily. And then Angelina, you'll hop back on to talk about Agatha All Along. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Until then, guys, enjoy the tribute that we have put together here for James Earl Jones, and then stick around for DCU Daily after that.
I cannot contend that I have always been right or wise.
Edward R.
But I
Murrow.
have attempted to pursue the truth with some diligence and to report it.
Celine Dion. Don LaFontaine.
He's not feeling very well.
Oprah Winfrey.
Do the right thing.
Courage.
Morgan Freeman.
Courage is the key to life itself.
Julie Andrews. Kevin Conroy. Close your eyes and listen.
Just be yourself.
They're the voices of our childhood, our youth. Instinctual, personal, eternal. That is the impact of one James Earl Jones. A commanding presence on screen. A trailblazer on stage. An EGOT winner with 3 Emmys, a Grammy, an honorary Oscar, and 3 Tonys. Yet his greatest legacy is perhaps giving life to the iconic characters of Darth Vader in the original Star Wars trilogy.
George had hired David Prowse, but he said he wanted a so-called darker voice, and not in terms of ethnic, but in terms of timbre. And the rumor is that he thought of Orson Welles, and then probably thought that Orson might be too recognizable. So what he ends up is picking a voice that was born in Mississippi, raised in Michigan, and was a stutterer. And that happened to be my voice.
I want to know what happened to the plans they sent you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take it away!
And Mufasa, in both the original 1994 The Lion King and the 2019 live-action remake.
Is that a challenge?
With the voice of rolling thunder, as the New York Times would describe it. Jones became a staple in our homes, our hearts, and singular amongst a crowded Hollywood landscape. Abandoned as a child by his parents, and raised by his maternal grandparents, Jones suffered from a debilitating stutter as a child. What he attributed to a traumatic experience moving at age 5 from his childhood home in Arkabutla, Mississippi, to a farm in Dublin, Michigan. But when his high school English teacher encouraged Jones to read his poem to the class, he discovered the stutter would disappear when he spoke words he'd memorized. The rest, as they say, was history. Making his cinematic debut with a minor role in Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. His star would rise with the role of Jack Jefferson, based on the real-life boxer Jack Johnson, in Howard Sackler's Great White Hope, a role he'd reprise to award-winning praise on stage.
Y'all so lazy! But, if I shot them down 2 quick 34th round, get to them all at once, then they holler, no!
In a career decorated with iconic performances, he'd earn a 2nd Tony Award for his role in August Wilson's Fences, awarded an honorary Oscar by the Academy at the 2011 Governors Awards, and a special Tony for Lifetime Achievement in 2017. Jones earned his praise with a tireless work ethic, amassing nearly 200 screen credits spanning a 60-year career, once appearing in 18 plays in 30 months, often featured in a half-dozen films a year, not to mention his television work. From the famous This is CNN promo campaign,
This is CNN.
to guest roles in The Simpsons,
To pronounce it correctly, I would have to pull out your tongue.
Frasier, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, and more. In Field of Dreams, Jones told us people will come. Well, here we are, left to marvel at a legacy etched in our memories. A career unparalleled.
When I first saw the dialogue that said, Luke, I am your father, I said to myself, he's lying. I wonder how they're gonna play that liar.
No, I am your father.
From the humble beginnings of working in a diner and living in a $19 a month cold water flat, to Broadway and Hollywood stardom. Jones showed us what's possible when we apply our talent to the best of its potential. And as he leaves us, at the age of 93, his triumphs remain a reminder.
John is just telling me. Actually, he's laughing at me. He's like, I'm muted. Yeah, let's reset a little bit. I was, I was taken aback, as one should be, with that tribute. We put that video together over the last few days, and that's the first time I've actually seen it with, all put together. Even though I was going through the revisions. But anyway, if James Earl Jones' impact on our world, and whether it's our collective memory of Darth Vader, characters like Mufasa, the Field of Dreams. There's so much that he did, and as an artist, he did everything. He did stage plays. He was on screen. He voiced some of the most iconic characters of our time. And he was an EGOT winner. In fact, he won a Tony twice. So he's got a resume to boot. Now, with that said, John's like, where the F is that ninja cutting onions? Yeah, truth. Well, but it's time to talk about DCU Daily, and let's get on to doing that. Of course, James Earl Jones once upon a time did a cameo on the New Adventures of Superman, or no, it was the New Adventures of Superman, Lois Lane and Clark Kent, Superman, the Superman show with Dean Cain, essentially. I'm probably messing up the title because I'm still sort of jumbled up in my emotions. So. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am. Even though I loved that show growing up, but we are here to talk about DC. We're here to talk about the Penguin. So welcome to another episode of DCU Daily, and today we're here to talk about the show that is coming out literally in 48 hours, if not less. It's actually less than 48 hours now. So the Penguin, there's a lot of news to talk about, John. There's Angelina. We're gonna move our stage for the time being. There isn't Angelina, actually, I should say. So John, have you seen all these new elements? I mean, the marketing for the Penguin.
Yeah, there's so much.
There's so much to talk about. Like, are you just like hyped to the nth degree at this point, or you're like, I'm just gonna turn off the marketing and let the show come to me in a couple of days?
No, I catch a couple things. Like I caught that clip. I caught Mark Strong, and then I caught a little bit of the sneak peek stuff that came a couple days ago. So yeah, I've been catching a lot of stuff like Rotten Tomatoes and all that. But yeah, I've been catching a couple things. I don't think it's gonna ruin it for me or anything, but yeah, I just I don't know, just I don't want to say, as I said before, I'm not super hyped. I don't want to because I became super hyped for the Batman and I got disappointed. So I don't want to get super hyped for this, but especially after the whole Oz Cobb nonsense. And
yeah, we did talk about it on yesterday's show, which was fun.
Fucking shit.
Yeah.
It's literally every person who saw that news, they're like, thanks, I hate it. Why are you doing this?
Yeah. The other thing is there's plausible deniability with that, because you can easily just change it back to Oswald Cobblepot. Because it does ultimately sound like you just shortened it. So if people hate it, you can always be like, oh no, it was Oswald Cobblepot the whole time. You can even retcon it and nobody's going to care that they call him Oz Cop in the show. But it's already sitting at 89%, right? The critics got to see the show. It's clearly sitting at a very high number, and 89% is no joke. It's kind of in the same territory as the Batman, which was, of course, the preceding movie in this franchise, and then, of course, after this, we're gonna get to the Batman 2. Now, as far as the news that we want to get into beyond just the Rotten Tomatoes score, which you guys can just find online. Mark Strong, you can see in the picture here. So DC Film News posted this, and they're doing great work over there. Mark Strong is playing Carmine Falcone in The Penguin. The role, of course, was previously played by John Turturro in The Batman, and the character dies. You could tell that, he's, of course, in the movie, he's got like the gray hair and everything. Mark Strong here clearly he looks like a younger Carmine Falcone.
Definitely feels like they're doing flashbacks.
Yeah.
When
you look at like a side by side, they do look kind of like the same person, right? Like, but like, what are your thoughts? I mean, Mark Strong is a great actor in his own right.
Oh yeah, that's definitely that doesn't even need to be said. He's no stranger to DC productions. He was in Sinestro and Green Lantern, and he was Thaddeus Savannah in the first Shazam film. So no stranger, and I think he's gonna do a good job here. But yeah, it's like he clearly has jet black hair here, and he's doing so he's doing flashbacks. I mean, it's kind of confirmed that they were doing flashbacks anyway, because we saw Sophia Falcone in Arkham Asylum, because she was the hangman. She was like a serial killer, and so she was put in Arkham Asylum, and then she's getting out now. So it's clear that they're doing flashback sequences, and Carmine Falcone will be part of those, and he's going to be played by Mark Strong. So I'm stoked for it. And he's a great actor, so awesome, great. I will, love to see it. It's just like the only thing is like, John Turturro is a little bit darker. He has more of that olive skin than Mark Strong, who's like a little bit whiter. But outside of that, I think he looks, good for, the role. He's got those fucking obnoxious looking sunglasses like he's fucking Bono or something. But outside of that, like it looks, looks great.
I mean, it's clearly what we had in the movie. It seems like he loved those glasses for whatever he got him to the rest of his life until, his death. Fortunate or unfortunate, depending on what side of the crime family you're on. But as far as how big of a role because the idea that you even have these flashback sequences, I'm wondering, like, is the scope of the show bigger than we anticipated, or are we still going to look at a fairly limited story? It's just like you said, a flashback.
I think they're just going to give us some context. Like, it's either going to be, I think it might be direct to obviously Sophia Falcone. She's going to have flashbacks to like with her father, but we also might be getting some flashback stuff with Oz Cobb, and how maybe he was brought under Carmine Falcone's wing, pun intended, and how how he became like this lackey for them, and we can like see the context of that, because I'd be intrigued with that. Because it was funny, because I remember like there was like a rumor fucking like a year ago where Mark Strong was like, oh, rumor mill, he's cast as Carmine Falcone. I'm like, why the fuck would they do that? That makes no sense. Why not just get John Turturro again if like, oh, he's not dead or something like that? And it's just like, no, just like that's stupid. And then I saw him like confirmed as another character. It's like, okay, he's playing, but no, it just he's always going to be Carmine Falcone. So that's interesting. And I remember seeing a comment. I don't know if it was this thread. Maybe you can scroll down and see it. Maybe I don't know if it was another thread, but it was like, I bet it's Clayface. It's going to be rumored to be Clayface, and it's like, or it's just a flashback. No, so it wasn't this. It was I think it was someplace else where I saw that, and it was just it was very, very funny. I was fucking Clayface, and it's like, no, it's what are you fucking talking about? But yeah, I think he'll do a great job, as he always does, and it'll be I'm optimistic, but I'm not like, oh my god, excited. But this is definitely a good, nice crumb we've gotten.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good pick, especially because it's not the end of the world. The character is dead in the world of movies, right? And also just in the franchise in the present day, having a different actor play a younger version, it's not uncommon to see that. right? I mean, it's not obviously he's not playing a child version of him, so that's usually where we see the difference because obviously you can't de-age somebody to look like an adult to look like a child, but here you are seeing somebody who could be as much as 10, 15, maybe even 20 years younger iteration of Carmine Falcone versus what you saw in the Batman. So it makes sense. And Mark, Strong, like you said, he's been in the DC stable for a long time. He's played multiple roles. He's a fantastic actor in his own right, no matter what he does. To bring him into the show, I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic addition. And it's just another great actor alongside you've got Colin Farrell, you've got Kristen Milioti, of course, you've got a ton of the actors from the movie. You've got new characters being introduced. You've got characters that are based on the Gotham City. Of course, I'm excited to see if they're adding any new characters that are not in the comics as well. So with that in mind, however, John, we do have to talk a little bit about the Penguin. Of course, it's his show, right? And the city will be his, as they keep saying. So the Penguin himself, Colin Farrell, spoke to the other Penguin, Danny DeVito. So they shared text messages, it seems like, on who is the best Penguin. And if you go by what
Burgess Meredith.
What if you go by what Colin Farrell said, we shared a few texts back and forth, but that was more taking the piss out of each other about who's the best Penguin, but nothing too serious or weighty. What do you think? I mean, Danny DeVito, of course, he's got a sense of humor. He called out Batman at the Oscars this year, and Michael Keaton was like,
"Hey man,
Come
Mr.
at me,
Freeze."
Bro. And Mr. I would love to see that movie. Quite frankly,
that would be hilarious.
That would be so great. I'm like, I don't even care if they're old. Like, it's like one of those like episodes of SpongeBob where you have
Mermaid
Man
and
Barnacle Boy.
Yeah, I was Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah.
But I think
you would just do that live action.
Yeah.
Evil.
Evil.
Like, yeah, just like great.
1 a.m. over here. So I'm trying not to yell. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is fun. It's cute. It's like it's like Christian Bale telling Ben Affleck, "Hey, make sure you can fucking piss in the thing," and like that kind of stuff. So it's nice. It's like a good like wink and a nod. It's just like Danny DeVito. Like, as much as I don't like the Tim Burton movies, like he nailed the villains. Like Jack Nicholson as the Joker, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, Danny DeVito as the Penguin, and even Christopher Walken as Max Schreck is sort of like a diet like Two-Face, because that character was supposed to be Two-Face, but
right,
Burton thought that there was too many iconic villains, because the end where Max Schreck gets fried was supposed to be the incident that scarred his face. But they rewrote that because there was too many.
I mean, in hindsight, I'm like, I would have preferred that as to what we got with Tommy Lee Jones. No offense to Tommy Lee Jones.
I mean, I blame, like, he just, I hate your intolerant buffoonery. Like, whatever the fuck he said. Like, it's just Jim Carrey. Like, I will say, I didn't hate Jim Carrey as, like, I will say, like, I've learned to appreciate him as the Riddler as time goes on. He's still not great. He's kind of just, he's better as Edward Nygma than as the Riddler, if that makes sense. Like, the Riddler, he's just kind of putting on a Frank Gorshin impression. Yet for when he's like Edward Nygma, he like really gets the character of like this egotistical fucking narcissist really well. So I just wish he did more of that. Because I mean, we've seen that like Jim Carrey can do really good in like drama or dramedies like Eternal Sunshine and that kind of thing. So I just wish he did more of that. But even then, so that it was like Tommy Lee Jones trying to like one up Jim Carrey, and you fucking can't one up Jim Carrey. That's like impossible. Right. Like in terms of that, like his style of comedy, ridiculous. Don't even try, my guy. Even though Tommy Lee Jones is a great actor in his own right, he could have been a great Two-Face in another universe if they took it more seriously, let Joel Schumacher actually do what he wanted to fucking do. # release the Schumacher cut. But I think, yeah, that would have, and especially Billy D. Williams as Two-Face, that would have been so fucking awesome. But that's neither here nor there. But it's, I feel like he nailed the villains. I think Danny DeVito's Penguin, he's definitely the best Penguin we've ever gotten. Even though I really like this iteration, I like how they got like the misfit part in more so like metaphorically than physically. Although now he's like kind of more physically, I mean, he's got the limp, he's like this outcast, like trying to make a name for himself. So like he does have like a bit of the physicalness, like he's fat, he's limping, that kind of thing. He's like balding, he's got a weird scarred face, and he's kind of got a weird looking nose, got a weird looking brow, and he's a little weird. I know he's not, Danny DeVito, but like,
as Matt Reeves would say, he's grounded.
yes, I understand that, but like it just even then, like I liked it, but even then I like how they're going for like metaphorical and physical at the same time. So I'm really curious with how he takes it, and I like how we're shining a light on the Penguin, and I think Lauren LaFranc is going to do a great job with this show. Obviously, I'm not going to get too excited, but I will say I am excited. Colin Farrell, like, dude's exceptional. I just hope like he doesn't get so sick of this role that he's like, fuck it, I'm never doing it again. Which, to be fair, I wouldn't blame him for, because if I had to sit still for like 4 hours while getting like pounds of prosthetics on my face and body, I'd want to fucking murder people too. So like, I get it. But like, I still want to like, I just hope he's not the main villain of Batman Part 2. That's because it's just like, that's too much of this character. We're getting a show. We got him in the first movie. I think that would be too much. I would want other great villains, especially villains we haven't seen on the big screen yet, to take a, to get like a spotlight, a limelight on them. So, but that's just my personal opinion. If he is the main villain, I won't like be like, what? Fucking great actor. I'll take it, especially if the show is really good. So we're like, fuck. You know what? Maybe this will convert me, because I know people are saying, oh, it's definitely going to be the Penguin as the main villain in Part 2. And you know what? Maybe this show is going to be that fucking good that it's going to be like, you know what? Give me even more and have him be the main villain of Part 2. Obviously, we'll see. I'm excited for whatever Matt Reeves has in mind for the role, even though the grounded stuff is kind of getting on my nerves a little bit. But I still like Matt Reeves as a filmmaker. He did an excellent job with the Apes movies. He did an excellent job with Let Me In. Cloverfield, I'm not a huge fan of, but he's a great filmmaker. So, I still trust him enough that to have like a really good vision and whatever he has in mind, So I'm still excited for that. It's a little irksome, but for the most part, I'm like, okay, I'll still, you know what? Maybe we won't let him cook. We'll let him maybe just like take the pots and pans out, just like not cook fully, just, boil some water. Like we'll do that. Not cook fully, but boil some water. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it's so far looking like a fantastic show from all the marketing that we have gone.
Mhm.
We've gone a bunch of trailers. We have gone, these TV spots. You've gone the posters. We're getting like this promotional tour where Matt Reeves is out there promoting it alongside the showrunners and Colin Farrell and everybody. Even Danny DeVito, like, chiming in, of course. With that said, though, John, there is the one voice that we have wondered, like, what does James Gunn think about this, right?
Mhm.
And James Gunn, we don't have a direct quote from him, but we did hear from one of the producers of this Universal. Basically, Matt Reeves' right-hand man in this universe is Dylan Clark, who's the producer for these movies in this franchise alongside Matt Reeves. Of course, Matt Reeves writes the movies and he's written a lot of the TV show. He's not the showrunner, but he's been involved in that with Lauren LaFranc. And then Matt Reeves has been working on writing the Batman too. And they're apparently still developing another spin-off in this universe, whether that's a Gotham PD show or Arkham Asylum show. We're going to figure that out hopefully in the near future. Or maybe it's a Catwoman spin-off. But Dylan Clark, the producer here, who's been closely collaborating with Matt Reeves, he's his producing partner. He recently said that James Gunn he's all in for Matt Reeves' Batman epic crime saga. So this was in one of the interviews that they've been doing. They did this interview with Total Film, and here's a quote that's on the screen. I'll read it out. The only conversation Matt and I had with James and Peter were that they loved the Batman. They loved that we'd already been in production with the Penguin, and they were all in on what we were doing. Of course, James Gunn and Peter Safran is who he's referring to here, and Matt Reeves and himself, of course, had a conversation, I'm sure, when James Gunn and Peter Safran came on board and started up DC Studios. What do you think about the idea here that Dylan Clark is saying James Gunn was all in, They love that they're working on the Penguin. They loved, what they did with the first Batman movie. And they're just all in on what they're doing moving forward. Do you think that this means James Gunn is, his full support is behind this, or is James Gunn just more or less just happy letting them do their own thing as long as the DCU can kind of like
Pretty
flourish
much,
the way
yeah.
it needs to?
I'm pretty sure James Gunn has said in the past that he's like, I love Matt Reeves' vision, not going to touch it. He'll do, obviously, he has to come for me for certain things because I am the co-CEO, but he's like, you know what? I'm going to let him. He's like, I love this vision. I'm going to let him do that vision. And that's that. I have mine. He has his. We can do 2 concurrent Batmans, and that's at the same time. That's cool with me. And that's, I don't know if he said that. I'm pretty sure he said that on Threads. I think, if I remember correctly, maybe I'm just like inventing shit. I don't know. But I remember him saying something along those lines of like, Matt Reeves, like I remember there was like something where it was like sometime last year, maybe around this time, maybe a little later, where they're like, oh, is Batman Part 2 canceled? And he's like, fuck no. Hell no. I love Matt Reeves. That's my boy. I'm gonna let him do what the fuck he wants.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially that.
Yep.
So honestly, this is not a surprise. Obviously, he's gonna say it's great and he's gonna approve. He's the fucking CEO. He's not gonna say, oh yeah, this guy's vision fucking sucks. Are you kidding me? Like, obviously he's not gonna say that, but even then, like, I still genuinely believe he's a fan of that vision and he wants to, let him boil his water, not let him cook, but let him boil his water and then do whatever he feels the need to. And obviously Peter Safran will see it from a business perspective. If it's not making money at a certain point, then it'll be stopped. But I mean, the first movie made almost $800 million. So you know what? And this is getting a lot of hype behind it. A lot of people are excited. So you know what? It's still going strong. So we'll see. But it's just a shame that we have to wait like another 2 years for the next fucking movie. So it's like we're probably going to get another spinoff in 2025 instead of the Batman Part 2 because obviously we got delayed.
Although if they were to do that, like they would need to make sure that they've started to package that now, right? Like because you gotta get
maybe
on that
I think they have I mean they did say, who said, we were talking about that yesterday or like last week where it was like somebody confirmed that it was like, oh yeah, there's another spinoff in the works.
So
like kind of rumor mill, but still.
I think it was Dylan Clark in that instance too, who of course this particular quote regarding James Gunn comes from, kind of talking about how they're working on this other show which they're still sort of developing. It's like it was sort of implied. It's not really, we're not really sure. But I mean, look, it's until it gets a green light from HBO, nothing is for certain because they clearly brought a couple of concepts to HBO they had been working on. And HBO said, hey, we want these, big, A-tier characters. You want these characters that people can associate with. We don't want to just do anything. We don't want to just do a Gotham PD show where we have listless characters. We don't know how it connects to the larger universe. We don't want to do that for Arkham Asylum. Like let's give, put respect on the names of these characters. That certainly with the Penguin, you've got Colin Farrell. He comes from the world of the movies. This character was already in a movie that made almost $800 million. There's a lot of awareness built in around the character. When people see, oh, they're doing a show. Oh, is it from the world of the Batman? Oh, Colin Farrell is still playing the Penguin. Oh, I want to watch it. I think to that end, yeah, they definitely could get back into the well and see how they want to repitch those shows. But Lantern's got the green light. The Penguin, of course, has been given the green light. Those other concepts, as they were pitched, did not. There's a reason for that. And they probably want to polish things up a little bit. HBO has a very high bar for quality, so I'm sure they're gonna get beyond it at some point. But it's not a guarantee. They're working on it. We'll see if that becomes a thing. But we are not done yet. There's this other nugget from the Penguin promotional campaign that I think is worth looking into. So recently they've put out this clip here where you got Kristen Milioti, Sofia Falcone, and of course you've got the Penguin there with Colin Farrell playing him. They're sort of having this conversation. It's like a little clip. We're getting our first clip, our first look at one of the scenes from the Penguin that has been released. And of course, that's the final straw, right? Like we're now literally less than 2 days away from the show releasing. So you give out you put out a 30-second clip, you put out a little bit, a piece of a scene, just to wet your whistle, as you would like to say, and trying to get an idea again of the power dynamics of the show, where the Sophia Falcone and Oz Cobb sort of have a temporary alliance where they feel like, long term they'll probably be enemies, but in the short term, their goals seem to line up, so that they can kind of work their way through the rest of the crime family together, so they can both grab onto whatever power they're seeking. So to that end, when you watch this clip, did it give you any new insight into the show? Is it just making you more excited for what this dynamic is going to be like? Because to me, they've almost sort of hinted at it, like there may be a fatal attraction here.
Ew.
I don't know who to.
Fucking
I'm just saying, like that was I got that from one of the.
You know what? I will say this, and this phrase is going to make sense considering his mother is going to be a huge part of his journey.
Yeah.
Oz Cobb's face, that is a face only a mother could love. So you know what? That's oof. Let's not go there.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, Sophia Falcone isn't exactly,
she's unhinged, but like
the
she's
most desirable character in the world of the Batman.
But like
she was in Arkham Asylum for the longest time. You could see that she's got a lot of violent tendencies to herself, right? I'm just saying, like, they probably see a lot of commonalities within each other.
Yeah.
So
it just, I maybe I'm being too mean, but like, you know what? It's not Colin Farrell's like real face. Like half of that is like fake prosthetics, so I can say that about him. But like, I can't say that about Chris Milan. I'm just saying she's very attractive, but I get it. I understand what you're saying.
Hey, don't underestimate the power of the Penguin's charisma. I'm just saying.
Like I remember, like it makes me think of there was a Mark Norman bit where he was like, guys are way more prone to like fuck, because it's like he set up like a thing like Men versus Women, where it's like if a woman walks into your house and you see your Nazi memorabilia, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. And then, but if a man came in and did the same and he walks into a woman's house and sees her Nazi memorabilia, he's like, I gotta bang this chick and get the fuck out of here. So it's like, I'm just there's something like a little bit different, but you know how it is.
Yeah. Well, speaking of news from the world of the DCU and DC Studios, we were talking about James Gunn just now, how Dylan Clark, one of the producers for the Batman universe, alongside Matt Reeves, he said James Gunn loves what they're doing over there. But James Gunn is also loving what he's doing over on his side of DC Studios. He posted this literally earlier today. I'm assuming that's Jon Stewart's Lantern there.
Yes. Well, considering he's the only black one, it makes sense.
It's just, dude, I'm like, okay, so there you go. Like the fans
there
again. Aaron Pierre, let's make it happen. But what is this? Like, there's no caption to this. It's just an image.
Yeah.
Do you know what comic this is
from?
from? What story this
are you
might be?
saying that the character is cast now? Is that what you're saying? Probably not, because James Gunn loves to cock tease his audience. So I'm just saying it was an interesting thing to post. So we'll see, but
It's definitely interesting. I mean, it's also one of those things where we've been talking about for weeks now. At this point, it seems like the idea that they want to cast Hal Jordan first, and then they're gonna cast whoever Jon Stewart is going to be. They're gonna want to make sure that the two actors have good chemistry together, because it's gonna be one of those buddy cop, mystery detective thrillers, kind of like True Detective is what they compared it to. So to that end, I feel like if they were to be going to the casting process, and if this was a confirmation, then through the transitive property or whatever property mathematics it is, if Jon Stewart is cast, then Hal Jordan must be cast too. So I'm wondering, like, how that is all coming together. Let us know in the comments, guys, what you think. If you think this post from James Gunn means anything beyond just he just thought it was a really cool piece of comic book artwork and he wanted to post it on his social media. Unlikely. There's probably more of a reason behind it. We of course know that there's a Lantern show coming, and we have a whole writer's room behind it, and the showrunner. They're looking for their two leads, and one of them would be Jon Stewart. So it could just be that, and if it is, then so be it. But we do have a lot more to get into with DCU Daily, and we have so many more things to talk about tomorrow. For the time being, though, we got to move on and talk about some Marvel stuff. So, guys, thanks again for watching DCU Daily. As always, come back tomorrow. We're gonna get into stuff from Joker Fall You Do. We have to talk about Superman Christopher Reeve's story. There's some, it's sitting at a really, really high, almost perfect score in Rotten Tomatoes. And we have got so much more beyond that. We have that, that crew set mug with the more artwork of the characters, including the engineers. We got our first look in there with what's the name of the character that Metamorpho. Our first look at what Metamorpho is gonna be like in the movie. We've got so much more to get into, so we're gonna dive into all of that and more tomorrow on DC Daily when we have more time to do so. Today we have to move on and we have to talk about, of course, Agatha All Along, John. So let me do a quick intro on this. Agatha All Along, if you guys aren't aware, is the next Disney Plus Marvel, Studios TV series. It is a show that has been several years in the making because it seems like they approved the show, that they greenlit it years ago. It was initially called Agatha House of Harkness, then it went through a couple of name changes. Now it's called Agatha All Along, and it's a show that is meant to be sort of like Hocus Pocus times Marvel Studios, and it's gonna have a little bit of like the horror elements from WandaVision, but it's gonna go in many different directions. It's got a stacked cast alongside, of course, the lead Catherine Hahn. You've got Aubrey Plaza in there. You've got a ton of other actors who are coming back from the WandaVision show. You've got some new additions. It's a show that I'm really excited about, and I'm gonna give it a shot because Catherine Hahn is that talented. But I do want to ask you guys. I'm gonna start with Angelina. So, did you hear about the show? Is this a show that you're interested in, considering that it is part of the MCU?
Invited to they were doing like an in-theater premiere of the first 2 episodes tonight. And it was tonight, so I couldn't go. But I was actually kind of thinking about it. I was like, I guess that could be fun. And honestly, reviews are way better so far than we anticipated, right? We were really ready for this, especially
people were worried. Get this. The review embargo for this is still not lifted. It's not lifting until I think, the show comes out. Am I correct about that?
Good.
That's weird.
So, that usually means it's bad.
Yeah, but at the end, but they do have reactions, like social media reactions are available. So that's what we're basing this off of. Just as a heads up. But I mean, Angelina, what is your anticipation for this show? Is this something that you feel like is must watch TV? They're gonna debut with 2 episodes tomorrow, literally on September 18th, with 2 episodes. It's gonna air as 2 episodes at I believe 9 p.m. Eastern time, so 6 p.m. Pacific time. And then after the first 2 episodes, the double episode premiere, I think it's got a total of 8 episodes. So they're gonna do 1 episode a week until you get to the last week, where they're gonna do episodes 7 and 8, and I believe that will fall on Halloween. So
I think but to get ready for Halloween. I'm excited for that sort of feeling, and the reviews so far are really good. Like the reactions and the fact that, Variety and all of these other reactions we've seen have been really positive, unless these people were paid off, which I wouldn't put it past them. But so far, people,
I don't know. I think that's
are happy with it. And Catherine Hahn is, Catherine Hahn is really an incredible actress. I really, really, really loved WandaVision. I think Marvel probably took its time with this, strictly because of how so many of the other TV shows have not done well following WandaVision, and they really want to make sure that this hits home. I think they're releasing it at a good time. Obviously, Catherine Hahn is incredible. I loved her character in WandaVision, and they are sort of doing this as a sequel to WandaVision, which will be sort of nice because we still don't know what's going on. Is the Scarlet Witch really dead? What is Vision coming back?
Well,
I have so many questions. So
they're still making that Vision show. Vision is gonna have his own show too. Yeah,
I know. It's gonna have the guy who did Picard season 3, right? That's Vision Quest, or Terry Matalas, I think his name is.
Terry Matalas, that's the name.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, Angelina.
Sorry.
No,
are you gonna be watching this?
It's fine. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, possibly. I guess I could see it. I'm gonna wait until the reviews come out. And then
do you feel like these episodes will be more?
Or maybe I'll wait until
minutes?
Halloween and then binge all of it. You know what I mean?
a lot of people will probably choose to do that because they've been so disappointed by a lot of these Disney Plus Marvel shows that seem to either start strong, then drag somehow. I mean, they've got 8 episodes. How do they make 8 episodes drag? And it's not even like they're hour-long episodes.
Isn't
I mean,
that crazy?
I wonder,
In a world where we used to get 22 episode
Right?
hour-long shows.
yeah. I mean,
Speaking
HBO
of
still
Star
does it.
Trek.
Apple TV Plus, Netflix, everybody else still can do an hour-long, 50
No,
minutes,
I
25-minute
mean,
long
even
episode.
Game of
No, I mean like
Thrones
22
has, like,
episodes.
12
Yeah.
episodes. Yeah, nobody does 22 episodes anymore.
That's true. That's true.
Ever.
I mean, there's certain shows, like, I mean, some of the new Star Trek shows do like 16, 17, but I do hear your point. Most shows are 12, 13 episodes at most. A lot of these Disney Plus shows are 6. I mean, at least we're getting 8 with this one. What I will say though, John, if you look at this, reaction from Michael Patterson, he says Agatha All Along is absolutely batshit crazy in all the right kind of ways. But then some of the comments beyond that kind of get me because he's saying Catherine Hahn is a force, camping it up as Agatha Harkness, like we all knew she would. The rest of the cast is also divine, and Joe Locke is a gem. I love Joe Locke. Seen him in a couple of things on Netflix. Can't wait to see him here. And then he says, vivid, outlandish, and brilliant. The two words that stuck out to me is camping and outlandish. So I'm wondering if they're really leaning into the campiness of this, like the hocus pocus side of it, or are we gonna actually get like more of like the horror element of like witchcraft? Like, it feels like this might be for a younger audience than maybe like the average MCU moviegoer, right? Like, what are your thoughts on just like looking at these kind of like reactions?
I don't know. That just seems like kind of butting heads a little bit. Like, oh, it's batshit, but it's campy. It's like, well, pick one. I feel like, I guess maybe not pick, but it's just like it feels like the way it's described. It's like, oh, it's going for scary. Like, oh, it's gonna be horror stuff. But then at the same time, it's going, oh, it's really crazy. It's bonkers. It's like, well, is it, I feel like very rarely you're like can do like bonkers scary properly. Like even stuff like Reanimator or something like that. I feel like that's bonkers, but it's not like necessarily scary, or like Society, or like the only maybe like The Fly, but even then that's not like.
I'm literally eating popcorn listening to John talk about this stuff. Like I'm watching
like I made it like The Fly, and it's like, but that's more like disgusting than like horrific. But I don't know. It's just.
I mean, it's Disney at the core of it. Like,
I know it's just like, weird.
Just
like,
no
how,
way
like what are you trying to do here? So it's like
it's like gonna
know,
be PG-13, right? If not PG. Yeah. WandaVision was PG-13, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's not rated R. It's PG. At best, it's PG.
It's PG-13. It looks like very. It looks
Marvel
very.
Movies rated R.
It looks very kooky.
No. Well, Deadpool was rated R.
Yeah, but that's Deadpool. That doesn't really count.
Right.
Ryan Reynolds.
I mean, but also the new Daredevil.
Kevin Feige in the forehead if that movie was not R-rated. So you know what? They're like.
Well.
There's also
but okay, but getting back to again, like you're looking at the images of the show right here, like you look at just, I'm getting the feeling they are going for that hocus pocus vibe. Whereas if you remember, there was a flashback sequence in WandaVision where they go back to when Agatha is like back in the old Salem days, like the Salem witch trial days, and it was one of the scariest sequences in the whole show where they really give you a sense of like there's like some real witchcraft and some dark shady shit happening, and. Whereas here, it just looks like, again, we're watching something closer to Hocus Pocus than we're watching something that you're gonna need to like have your blankie with you and cover your face because it's getting to be too scary. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, like, if that means like this is the kind of show that people are gonna start watching and then be like, you know what, this is not really my taste, because. If it is going for the more campy like style, then I feel like maybe it's more for the younger audience, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm saying like it just means like
not bad, but weird choice.
Like it might not be for everybody. Like as far as Aubrey Plaza, of course, I am curious though what her character is truly, because we don't really know. People are wondering, is she like the Scarlet Witch? Is she sort of like because she's a pretty big name to be on this show, and for us to still not know who she's playing.
She is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder what that's going to look like. And speaking of Aubrey Plaza, of course, when you look at some of the reviews, there's people got to see multiple episodes of the show already, and a lot of people praise Joe Locke and Aubrey Plaza's performances. where you can see here the first 4 episodes are a delightful mix of Hocus Pocus and The Wizard of Oz with a hint of horror and loads of comedy. There is a lot of comedy in this. This is from Screen Rant's
Yeah,
Joseph
it's going to be very campy.
Deckelmeyer.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I think it'll be good because are we getting Wednesday this year or no?
I don't know.
I believe we.
I don't know
Are
if
we
it's
not?
slated to come out this year. I think it's slated to come out next year. Let's double check on that, everybody. So I think in place of that, or I mean, obviously not in place of it, but alongside of it, I think it'll be a good watch. I don't think we're getting. It's just entered production. I don't think it's gonna come out.
Yeah, I think it might have gone delayed because of
Yeah.
like the strikes last year. So
Yeah, and then
Got
I
caught up in
believe
that.
probably Tim
Yeah.
Burton doing Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
that's gonna affect it too. Yeah.
Why Wednesday
Yeah.
2 is taking so long to make. So I think in place of something like that, it'll do well, right? Because Wednesday sort of gave that sort of campiness to this season. And I know so many people that are just so ecstatic to be doing the things. So yeah, I don't know. Along the lines of that, I think it might do really well, especially if there's not a whole lot of competition and that sort of campy, feel good, fun, cool, Halloween-y stuff, you know?
Yeah. I just hope that they're able to kind of develop. You are giving Catherine Hahn a show.
Mhm.
Let her, just dazzle us with her acting chops. So I hope that this show isn't one of those things where it just feels like we're watching something very surface level. I hope that they give more dimension to the characters because she did come across pretty one-dimensional by the time we got to the end of WandaVision. Especially the last episode, I was like, It just now became one of those standard third act Marvel fights where you have a lot of VFX and people flying in the air. Whereas I hope here we can get a little bit more of like, what does this brand of witchcraft in the Marvel Cinematic Universe look like? Especially considering we know there's like Doctor Strange and all those other wizards in Marvel. Where does Agatha kind of fit into the hierarchy of that? And they'll probably retcon some details from WandaVision, but let's see where it ends up. Guys, if you are wondering when this show is airing, September 18th. It's literally September 18th as we are on this show. We kind of crossed the midnight hour on the East Coast. It's still September 17th on the West Coast. But as far as when it's coming out, where you can find it, it is going to be releasing Wednesday, September 18th, which for a lot of you might be today. And if you're watching this after the show has been live, then it might have already happened. So this Wednesday, September 18th, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time, you can watch it with episodes 1 and 2, airing all together. And then they have 7 more episodes to go, which, if I'm correct, their final 2 episodes will be airing on October 30th. So basically Halloween, which, this show feels like it's a perfect fit for that. So with that said, let us know in the comments what you think about this. The critics, so far, at least their initial reaction, they seem to love it. The embargo has not lifted. So the full reviews won't be out until the show is out, which for a lot of us probably means,
garbage.
It's maybe not a good sign, but hey, let's give it a shot. The first 2 episodes, it will be an hour probably without credits because these are still probably 25-minute long episodes. But yeah, let us know in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you haven't already, if you've been watching this whole time and you have not hit the like button, what the hell are you doing? Hit that like button, please. All right, come on. We're getting to the end of the show.
Who wants me to be Princess Leia? I volunteer as tribute. That'd be fun. Sorry.
Yeah. That or
Lex really wanted you to.
Yeah. It's crazy. And Mary Jane. That was the other one. Mary Jane.
Well, let me pitch this last inning here of the show. We have Transformers 1. It's the newest movie in the world of Transformers. This one is animated. So is it connected to the other franchise movies, all the live action stuff, like the Rise of the Beasts and all the Michael Bay Transformers movies? No. It's also not the one where they cross over with the G.I. Joe. That we don't know if it's happening at all because
let's hope not.
Lorenzo Di Bonaventura is like, we're sort of working on it. Maybe we'll get to it eventually. So regardless of what's going on with the live action side of the franchise, we do have Paramount, releasing this Transformers 1 movie. It's coming out in a couple of days. The trailers look fantastic. It feels like for a lot of people, this might be the Transformers movie they've been waiting for all their lives, especially if you grew up a fan of the franchise. So, John, I will start with you on this one. Have you seen the trailers for this movie? Is this one that excites you, or is this one that you're just, a little cautious about?
I watched the trailers and I'm like, this looks pretty fun. Like, it's not. I mean, Bumblebee and the '86 movie are probably the best Transformers movies we've ever gotten. I remember watching one of the shows when I was younger. I wasn't like a huge Transformers head, but like from the movies, I remember watching the first one in theaters. And I thought that was like the fucking, like me being like, I came out in like 2007, so I was like 10 years old at the time. I was like, this is the fucking greatest movie ever. This is fucking amazing. It's just like, yeah, because as Michael Bay said,
they killed off all the big Transformers. Didn't you hate the idea that they killed off all the ones that you knew, and all of a sudden there was new
I didn't know
characters?
anything about Transformers, so I
Okay,
didn't give a fuck. But at the same time, it's like Michael Bay makes movies for 12-year-old boys, and considering I was pretty close to that, that made sense. This looked fun. I like how they kind of look like toys. Like it looks very toyetic, but in a
It's like
good
the Lego
way.
movie.
Yeah, like kind of like the Lego,
aesthetic
or
a
like
little
the
bit.
upcoming Farrell biopic that's also Lego
Yeah.
for some reason.
That is so weird to me. I saw the preview for that and I was like, what the fuck? Why? Who
It's
the fuck is
unique.
gonna go watch that movie?
It's unique. I don't know what to tell you.
I hated the first two Lego movies, and a big key part of that reason was because I used to babysit my two younger cousins religiously. Like I was basically the fucking living nanny. And I went through that summer having to watch that motherfucking movie every day. I could have killed myself. I hated that so much. I'm sorry. That was like
you're just a hater. You're
that
just
was like
a hater.
the worst experience of my life every fucking day.
Hater.
Can we watch the Lego movie? No, we can't. You're cut off. Can you imagine watching the movie every day?
I'd love to watch that movie
3
every day
months?
because Lego Movie is fucking Kino. That's why. The second one's like, okay, if you had to watch the second one every day, I'd be like, okay, that's a little bit more understandable. But first one, fucking Kino. Second one, pretty good. But first one,
how are you
fucking
going to say
cinema,
the
man.
movie we watched this week was terrible, but you love the fucking Lego movie?
The Lego Movie is fucking amazing.
Dawn is
I don't know
canceled.
what you're
Moving on.
talking about.
I'm actually pretty. Honestly, this cartoon. Well, okay. I have questions about the fact that it's an animated movie going to theaters. Sometimes I have feelings about that. I'm curious to know if this is going to be one of those movies that should have just hit streaming. But with that being said, I do kind of like the premise of it. Like, I feel like we've gotten so many iterations of the Transformers. And I used to watch the animated series growing up. I don't remember ever sort of hearing what started the war between the two. So it's kind of cool to get like a back to the basics, like a new telling of like how it all happened. You know what I mean? We've gotten so many iterations, but we've never really gotten how the Decepticons and the what else is it called? The
Autobots.
How they became each one and why they.
Well, of course, Optimus Prime and Megatron used to be friends. It's kind of like the whole
But I didn't know that.
I don't know if
Crabs
that's
were friends.
I don't know if that's common
canon,
knowledge.
though. I think that's
well-
made for this movie, so
It does kind of put it into a different light. The idea of like how Megatron went down that darker road, like how
because we've seen that a
It's
billion
kind
times.
of
Where I'm
giving,
like,
Malcolm X and not Malcolm X.
Martin Luther King,
Professor Professor X and
Magneto.
yes,
Magneto.
Wild and Wild.
Yeah,
Wild
speaking
and
of
very
Wild.
tired guys. Sorry.
But
It's kind of giving that sort of new.
Yeah, and it's just like we've seen that a bunch of times before. It's like, why do we need to have them be friends and then be enemies? It's like, why do we got that? Why
It's like
can't they
my
just be
jug of
enemies?
water.
Yeah,
I mean, but
so
also
it's like-
the voice cast in this is fantastic, right? You guys, Steve
Well,
Buscemi,
I mean,
you
it's got
John
Chris
Hamm.
Hemsworth. Like,
You've got Chris
all right.
Hemsworth is voicing Optimus
the worst
Prime, right?
Chris.
Kind of, yeah,
But-
it's kind of interesting.
I'm just it's also you've got like Brian Tyree Henry, like you've got people
He's
who
awesome.
are
Keegan
obviously
Michael Key.
there's-
I love Keegan Michael Key. He's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at this movie and I'm like the freeze frames here and like look at the cast. I mean, they've got an all-star cast, but I look at these stills and I'm like, you know what? They've got the character designs down. It sounds good. I'm like, we're not getting.
I think the trailers look good. Like all my friends were like, "This looks like the worst movie of the year," and I'm like, "I think it looks okay. I think it looks kind of fun." Like I just was like the odd man out. I was like, "Oh, I think it looks okay. Shut up."
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is like a movie I would prefer to see at home. Like, I don't think I'd want to like go to the theater to see it. You know what
I mean, look, I will say this: the biggest movie of the year this year is Inside Out 2, the most the highest grossing movie, and
Highest
also
grossing animated movie
Despicable
ever made.
Yeah.
Highest grossing animated movie ever made. It's also Despicable Me 4 has made almost $1 billion. Moana 2 might make another $1 billion. So it's been a good year for animation. We have even what's the Lost Robot? Is that the name of the other animated
Wild
movie?
Robot. That looks really
the
good.
Wild Robot.
Oh, that looks really good.
It looks fantastic.
I'm really excited for that one.
So,
that one looks great.
I mean, as far as animations in a movie, animated movies in a movie theater, I think might be living in just a fantastic year, a renaissance almost, because Pixar is getting back on top. You've got Illumination doing well, and with
you got
with
DreamWorks
the Sonic,
with Wild Robot,
the Hedgehog 3, which is almost it's kind of half animated,
which is partly animated, not totally, but how it is.
So, I think we're living in a good time. We're eating good. It's also a time where the Transformers franchise can use a win, Paramount can use a win, and I think for this movie, it's not Peter Cullen, but Chris Hemsworth. Like if you listen to the trailers, they do a good job. They're not trying to imitate the voices that are iconic, but they're trying to make this their own. It does stand on its own. This isn't a movie that's meant to sort of take over for what the live action franchise is doing. It's not connected to that. It sort of stands on its own, and and the live action franchise will continue with whatever they're doing next. So you can go to the movie theater, feel like you don't need to watch 5 or 6 other movies beforehand, and just enjoy this movie for what it is.
Yeah,
which is something that I look forward to doing.
Like
I don't
outside
like
of the
idea,
one trope I don't like, I'm kind of I wouldn't say I'm excited for it, but I'm really curious about it. I love the look of this. I love how toyetic it looks, and I don't know, that seems kind of cool to me. But yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff coming out this week. I really want to see Never Let Go. That looks really good. The Substance looks really fucking cool. I'm gonna be seeing. Hopefully, I have the time to see all 3 of these because I'm stoked for all of them. So, and a lot of cool people. Halle Berry, you got Demi Moore, you got and then you got Brian Tyree Henry. You got a lot of great actors between these movies. Although not Chris Hemsworth. Fuck Chris Hemsworth. Fuck that guy. He sucks. But
of course you got John Hamm, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just plus it's Chris Hemsworth, again, the worst Chris, and it's he's playing Optimus Prime, and it's Peter Cullen, man. Peter Cullen is...
I know, but he's not gonna play he can't voice the character forever, right?
I know, but he should.
Yeah, that's kind of just what I get a little he has such a specific voice, and that has been the voice for so long.
To be fair, other people have played Optimus Prime. It just feels like Chris Hemsworth is miscast for the role,
Yeah, it's weird. I just can't, and I feel maybe because it's the youngest iteration of Optimus Prime that they felt okay to do that. And it does seem like Chris Hemsworth brings a way younger voice to it, but he doesn't sound like Optimus Prime at all. And we know what Optimus Prime is supposed to sound like, right? So it's you couldn't get someone that could match the voice a little bit. It just feels weird.
I mean, but the thing is, you're gonna then run into the whole. I'm just saying, if you're gonna do the comparison, then people are gonna be like, "Oh, he's doing an imitation." It's kind of like Chris Pratt did Mario, but he wasn't trying to do the video game Mario, right? He did his own take on it. It doesn't need. I feel like if you're gonna try to do the voice, then you're gonna draw the comparisons, and you can't do Peter Cullen. Chris Hemsworth can't do Peter Cullen, so you might as well do.
I feel that's
him,
not an equal comparison, because the only iterations of Mario we'd previously gotten were from video games, and it was the first movie iteration that we were getting with the Super Mario Brothers. So this is so much different because we've had so many animated iterations. We've had so many movie iterations. We've had so many, we're talking iterations of Optimus Prime with the same essential voice for the last 30 years. That's a standard that I feel needs to be upheld. I would prefer someone imitating a younger version of Peter Cullen's Optimus Prime voice, other this Chris Hemsworth doesn't sound anything like him. So immediately I'm not going to feel as invested because that's a voice I grew up with, right? Like for some reason it really bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I'm a big fan of the Peter Cullen voice. Like, I love the whole like, this is a message to my creators: leave Earth alone because I'm coming for you. I can't do the voice, but I'm just saying, like,
Nobody can do that voice.
You listen to it's iconic. I'm totally on the same page with you. All I'm saying is, you watch hopefully when you watch the movie, it may stand out to you for the first 5-10 minutes, but if then the story can pull you in,
I mean,
hopefully you'll forget that you're not listening to the same Optimus Prime you're used to. You know, if it's and hopefully it's not too jarring, right? Like, and that's the goal. I mean, when you look at the reviews for this movie has, unlike Agatha All Along, which not a movie, it's a TV show. But you know, Transformers 1 has already got the reviews out. There is no embargo on it, or the embargo has lifted. It's sitting at a 90% with 68 reviews. That's not quite enough reviews for it to be certified fresh, but there are certainly enough reviews there now for them to be like, you know, this is definitely, you know, not rotten. It's a movie that's probably you know, worth a go at the movie theaters.
Wild Robot has 100.
I'm really so excited for Wild Robot.
It looks like it definitely has like Iron Giant plus Wall-E vibes.
Yeah, and I loved Wall-E. It was one of the best movies. So I'm excited.
Yeah, Wall-E's great. Iron Giant's great. Fucking Iron Giant.
Iron Giant was pretty good.
Iron Giant's fucking cinema. That's like one of the best animated movies of all time, easily.
I will say this: I watched one of the people who saw an early fan screening and them talking about it, and they did say that what this movie does a great job with, which the live action movies don't do so much, is they give more dimension to the supporting characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't just feel like this one character is like a samurai who's like this brash dude, or this one character who's, you know, like these single trope characters.
It feels like an actual ensemble.
Yes, and it feels like these are three-dimensional characters that you know, they have their weaknesses, their strengths. You know, they have their good moments, their bad moments. There's an arc. There's a character arc to all these characters. So, unlike the live action movies where the humans seem to get more of that focus, I feel like in this, you know, at least what this person was saying is, in the animated form, they've been able to kind of focus on the Transformers themselves and turn them into characters that we can really get behind. And more than just like, oh, we love B because, you know, he's cool and does, it sounds like, you know, the way he talks is fun. And to me, that's something that, like the critics' consensus says here, maybe animation is the optimal medium for this franchise. But we'll see. We'll see whether that's true or not. It is sitting at 90%, not 98%. That would be really good. But 90% is nothing to, you know, to cough at. With that said, guys, let us know in the comments if you are excited for Transformers 1 and if you are going to go see it in a movie theater near you. It is coming out in only a couple of days. Of course, Agatha All Along is coming out. The Penguin is coming out. We're going to review The Penguin this Thursday on DCU Daily. We're back tomorrow with tons of more news on DCU Daily. Speaking of which, it's been a really, really long show. Thanks for sticking around. For you guys watching, if you haven't already, hit that like button. If you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button. And if you have done both of those things, then hit that notification bell so you know when we go live, because we are live Monday through Friday with DCU Daily. And on Tuesdays, we also do Oh So Curious, like we did today. We reviewed Speak No Evil. So if you joined us late, then be kind, rewind, watch back the show. We talked about all the news from the world of the Penguin.
Rewind.
We did.
I haven't heard that.
That's what I like to say.
I was like,
that's the only time I hear it nowadays. Is when
I was like, wow.
I need to get my Be Kind Rewind shirt because I have it here somewhere. But
you do. That's why I say it, because you literally have the shirt. But yeah, I mean, we started the show off with the Mickey 17 review. That looks fantastic.
We started the show yesterday, guys.
Yeah,
I need to.
It's been a long show.
Now.
So
it's tomorrow.
Yeah, the Mickey 17 trailer is great. The Penguin looks fantastic. Speak No Evil is making the money. Killer's Game is making no money. The Emmys were fantastic as well. We paid tribute to James Earl Jones. So much to talk about, so much to see. Go out there, watch something movie related, come back and talk to us about it. And until next time, guys, have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, night, wherever you are watching from. We'll see you next time on another episode of Was It Curious, and we'll see you tomorrow on another episode of DCU Daily. Until then, John, Angelina, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.